This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to Netherdale for Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio with me, Stuart Cameron. It's the return of the south of Scotland after 6 years with the Inter-District Championship back on the calendar, and tonight it's a 7 o'clock kick-off for the south against Edinburgh. Our commentary team tonight: Dale Clancy, Robin Purdie, Neil Hinnigan and Graeme Dodds. But let's bring in Robin first of all. Robin, we're 30 minutes away from kick-off. What a buzz about the place already.
There really is, Stuart. Good evening, and teams are warming up, and conditions are brilliant. Pitch looks in great condition, so sure, it'll be a great occasion, the return of the Inter-District Championship.
Long time coming, but this is the team that has the history behind it, and someone described it the other day as the people's team to represent the Borders, a team that actually everyone from the area says is their side.
Oh, I think so, and certainly when I was a youngster and indeed a young man, that was the thing everybody wanted to be involved in as a player, even if it was the age grade South. That was the thing: get in the South, be in the South. And these players, I'm sure, will be absolutely buzzing for this tonight.
Now, Graeme Dodds, I'll bring you in here because you're the only one from all of us who have actually worn the red and white stripes. What's it like?
Oh, it's great, and as Robin says, it's something you aspire to. I think being a proud Borderer, all these guys out in the red and white tonight will certainly be that, and it's a big thing. And I know, speaking to quite a few of the local guys, not just from Melrose, but really keen to be involved. And there were a couple of guys were really gutted. I spoke to a friend from Selkirk at the weekend there when they found out the squad, and he was absolutely gutted not to be involved in the matchday squad, which says a lot about what the occasion's about.
And of course, the thing is, the South, since it came back in 2009, has only played 4 times. The fact that the Inter-District is back now, okay, it's only 2 games in this series, but in the future, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for all sorts of players from all sorts of clubs around the area to put their hand up.
No, it's great, and I know when the South first came back in 2009, they pushed for the Inter-District, and it didn't quite happen, and we played the Babas game down at Hoyk, and we played Northumberland here, and although there were great occasions, it was great to wear the South jersey. This is a little bit more extra special. I think it's Inter-District, play Edinburgh tonight and hopefully win this, and get a crack at one of the other 2 in a week on Sunday up at Braidholme. And it's gives bragging rights as well. It puts that real competitive edge into the game, and it's not just a one-off. What
about your own experience of actually playing in the red and white shirt? Because it's a very different experience, I'd imagine, to playing for Melrose.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's funny because as Robin said before, when you're a kid, you want to play for the South, whether it's under 16 level or under 18 or up in the full squad. And I was involved in a lot of the district stuff when I was younger, and you get to know these guys. You get to know you have pals for all over the place. Kelso, Gala, and Hoyk, and all the other clubs as well. And to be able to actually pull on the same jersey as them, it's a great thing. You're very much competitors and enemies most Saturdays, but when it comes to playing in the same team, you really are mates, and you're playing for your district. Well,
I mentioned that the south of Scotland has been only playing 4 games. They've won them all, of course. They've come from behind in every single match, including Northumberland, which they eventually won by 37 points to 3. Then there was the Barbarians match, of course. Again, they were about 10, 11, 12 points down on that occasion, but had the character to come back. That was the day at Mansfield Park where it was all about the Frasers, the Fraser Thompson and Fraser Harkness as well in that one. And then since then, a couple of matches home and away against Caledonia Reds. And of course, we mustn't forget, Neil Hinnigan will bring you in now. You were the South Sevens manager, and very successful you were as well. And again, it was a great opportunity for some of the players to buy into what the district is about.
Yeah, it was, Stuart. I find it very easy to speak to players regarding playing for the South. You always get a positive vibe for them. It's Marcel and Fraser Harkness were the Sevens. Certainly, we always used to tell people, it was a real rarity that anyone turned down playing for the South Sevens. It was only through injury or fatigue with us having as long Kings of the Sevens. There was an odd player was done by then. But apart from that, every one of them wanted to play, and it was very good occasions. It was just one of those feelings that, you know, what Graeme's already said about pulling together, and it used to pull together pretty quick. It was a unique thing to be involved in, and I was really honoured to do it. And when we had the 2 Cali games as well, really enjoyed them. The trip to Stirling Bridge Hawk was one where we were late through traffic and all this, and we were 19-0 down. You know, phenomenal stuff. It was a feeling that it still always had that feeling like we were going to win the game because we were the South. You know, and that's how it felt at the time. And to be able to play, you know, they were one-off games, but once we got into the second half of both those games, you'd think we'd played together for 10-11 weeks. You know, that's how it felt.
Well, we'll be talking more to the boys a little bit later on, but earlier on I spoke with both coaches. We'll hear from Edinburgh's head coach Bob McKillop shortly, but first, the man of the moment, Hawick head coach on Saturday, South head coach today. It's Matty Douglas. Well, Matty Douglas, it's been an unreal few days for you, hasn't it?
It's been amazing, Stuart. Something I've no experience before. Fuzzy Heeds now eventually went away, but now look, attention turns to tonight. It's been a good preparation, and we've had a quick chat just before on the pitch, and players are definitely zoned in, that's for sure.
I was going to say, how have the Hawick boys recovered so quickly? Because it's only 3 days since that happened.
To be honest, I think a lot of it is to do with being the South. None of them want to give up their jersey. They've made sure that they're fit enough to go, and the you know, spirits are high in that group, and it just kind of feeds into everybody else. And look, you know, we've got boys in there for Kelso have been promoted, and you know, a lot of teams have had a good season, so we're just kind of continuing the high of Borders Rugby at the minute, and we'll soon see if the decision's paid off to give these Hawick boys an opportunity.
Because the level out there at the moment, the standard, at least at the same level as the Cup final on Saturday.
I think it'll be higher, if I'm honest. I think looking at the Edinburgh team, it's full of Premiership players and a few Nat 1, but I think with the crowd, you know, hopefully we've got a decent crowd, and just I think the occasion, it'll be a step up again, just with the history and everything behind it. That's taken nothing away for the Cup final and the pressure that was on us, but this is a different kettle of fish. It's you know, it goes back a long time, and I think the words by John Rutherford last night, you know, kind of sunk in a little bit how special this was, and what a good opportunity we've got as a group of players to you know, make a little bit of history again.
And obviously you'll be using the bench as well at some point, and there's some crackers to come on.
Yeah, I like having a strong bench. I think if you've got a bench that is the key part is making sure once they're called upon that they're ready to go, and you know, I'm all for having chats with them at half time and making sure that when they're told that they're going on, that it doesn't take them 5 minutes to get into the game. Like, they have to input within the first 30 seconds, the first minute, either a tackle or a carry, and get into the game. And when you see our bench, it's a very strong lineup, and I think it'll add a bit of experience, maybe compared to the Edinburgh bench. So look, if we're still in the game at 60-65 minutes, I think there's a strong group of players there that'll come in and continue the high work rate that we want to achieve.
Of course, as well as that, I mean, you've had 4 sessions, so some of the boys from the original 39 have actually made their way into the squad. In fact, one, Dwayne Patterson, wasn't in the squad at the moment, and that's great, isn't it? The fact that you've been able to bring someone in, and they have put in such a great performance that they've worked themselves not just into the squad but into the starting lineup. Yeah,
exactly. And I think once I was took the role on, and once we got a coaching team in place, and once we got the player buy-in, we took the decision to train and set dates early that we would be training for 3 sessions, and I think it was key, that part of it. Look, the performance will come if we've done our homework and prepped well enough, but I think the 3 sessions have really helped these boys gel. Obviously, you see the players playing for other teams, but a lot of the time you don't actually see or know what they are. You know, there's a lot of characters in that team, some I didn't know about, and it's just a great little environment to be in within a season. Bringing the best players in the region into one place, and you know, what more could you ask for? And these are the sort of games that these boys want to play in, and there's a real hunger to play. I think that's the big thing. You know, these boys at the end of the season could have turned around and says, nah, we're finished. But to be here tonight shows what it probably means to a lot of these boys.
Absolutely, and of course, I mean, you know, everyone is taking it absolutely seriously. I mean, Edinburgh, I think, have had at least 2 sessions. We'll find out later when we talk to Bob McKillop. But you know, these guys, 100%.
Yeah, they are, and I think it goes by the squads that have been selected, not just Edinburgh, but through the region. There's Premiership players filtered in every squad, but I think it's a great experience for these players in Nat 1 to come into this environment. A lot of these boys have said this is a step up for their club atmosphere and club training, and that'll only improve players as well. Can they go to that next level? I think there's a lot in there that can. But there's some players are happy to stay at amateur club rugby but want that little carrot to be able to play club international and bits and pieces like that. So it can't be anything but good for Borders Rugby.
And a lot of players on the park from both sides who are wanting to put on a spectacle for hopefully a very big crowd tonight.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure how many will be here, but I think you'll know yourself with the publicity we've had on social media, in the papers and whatnot has been very good. Always in the Borders you get grumpings, team pickings and whatnot, but look, I've had a lot of positive feedback from squad selection. There's not been a lot of grumping, and that's always a good start in the Borders, because it can be a bit political, and everybody I've spoke to is coming down tonight, and I think we'll get a good backing, and it should make for a good spectacle.
Well, you haven't tasted defeat this season. Let's hope that continues.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks, Matty.
Cheers.
Matty Douglas, who's looking to retain his unbeaten record this season, albeit under different colours tonight, but with plenty of Hoyt players on the squad. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what does happen. But what about Edinburgh? Here's their head coach, Bob McKillop. With me at the back of the stand now, Bob McKillop, who's head coach of the Edinburgh team. It's something really different, this, isn't it, Bob?
It's fantastic. I guess as an old guy like me, it's going back to the future almost. I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, sun shining. Our guys just can't wait to play. So, yeah, it's something different for the youngsters, but I think what a great initiative to bring this back.
So important as well for the clubs to buy into this idea of the inter-district again, and I think you're pretty much represented the 5 big clubs.
Yeah, I mean, the buy-in across Edinburgh from all the club coaches, us as a coaching team, has been fantastic. I was told, congratulations, you're going to coach Edinburgh. By the way, nobody will be interested. It's the end of May, and nothing could be further from the truth. And I think especially when we found out our first fixture was down here. We've just spoken in the dressing room and said, where else would we want to start this? And we want to start it down in the Borders, because we know the Borders players buy into it, but I think more importantly than that, the Borders supporters will really buy into this. So yeah, can't wait to get going. And
of course, outside of the inter-district, which is like over 20 years ago when it was last played, a long, long time ago, Caledonia and the South have had a couple of matches, but this is like new territory for Edinburgh.
Yeah, a new territory for all the players downstairs, absolutely. And I think it's great, isn't it? And hopefully next year they'll structure the season so we have a great club season. We build into the district championship and onwards to a club international team. I think it's fantastic. It's really great for the boys.
It really ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? It's just amazing why we haven't had this sort of, as you say, in the last 20 years.
Yeah, and we can only blame COVID for the last 2 or 3, I guess. So, this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
So, Curry and Edinburgh Accies predominantly, but as you say, there's Stuart's Melville, there's Heriot's involved as well, and the other club has just escaped me.
Watsonians.
Watsonians, of course, down at my
Heriot's
side.
coach, how could that escape me?
Yes.
The buy-in from all of those 5 clubs has been fantastic, and you have 5 incredibly famous clubs. When you look at the other team sheet, it looks exactly the same. So, we're really thrilled. I mean, Curry have had a fantastic season. We're built around Curry, but strong Edinburgh Accies contingent as well, and 2 Stuart's Melville starters in the starting lineup.
Fantastic. And of course, the preparation for some match like this. I mean, the South have had 4 sessions, so they've obviously taken it seriously. How's your preparations gone?
We've taken it much more seriously than that. We've had 2 sessions, although we did, actually, the first session we met at Rayburn Place. We told the boys not to bring their boots, and we had a few beers, because I think one of the other things we've lost over the 17 years, Stuart, is the connection between clubs. These boys didn't know who each other were, so we decided it was a bit of a false economy to run straight out and start going through complex line-out moves. Why not have a couple of beers on a Wednesday night? So we did that. We've had 2 really good training sessions with the boys. Yeah, they're not going to be as structured as they are in their club game, but the individual talent is fantastic. So I think both teams are just going to roll their sleeves up and go for it.
Well, we've been talking about what kind of game is it going to be, and I mean, to me, I think just looking at the players that you've got and the South have got, they love to throw the ball about, and it would be fantastic if we get 2,000 or 3,000 people down here tonight. A real spectacle for them, because the weather has changed into beautiful sunshine.
I don't think it's going to be a 6-3 game, Stuart. We've come to play, and I've no doubt under Matty and the guys, the Hoyt contingent will be bags full of confidence, and I'm sure they'll want to play as well.
So what about your team news then tonight?
So as I said, we're built around a strong Curry team. So 7 of our starting lineup from Curry, 6 from Edinburgh Accies, and then 2 from Stuart Melville. Jamie Sword in the second row has really impressed us at training from Stuart Melville, and Aaron Porteous will start at scrum half for us from Stuart Melville as well.
It's interesting you mentioned sort of some names that most people probably in Edinburgh would say, well, they wouldn't normally be in the team, but during training we've had this in the south with Dwayne Patterson as well. Wasn't in the original 39, but he's made the cut today and he's starting.
And those 2 guys I mentioned are exactly the same as that, and a couple of our bench guys as well, that if we'd picked it on what we prejudged before we got there as Premiership coaches, especially some of these Nat 1 players probably wouldn't have been in the rankings, but we said roll your sleeves up. There's going to need to be a little bit of bone on bone in the first training session so we can assess what you can do. And some of these boys rolled their sleeves up and got stuck in, and the reward is to be involved tonight. So yeah, exactly the same for us. And that's even great as well, isn't it? There's some real strong players in National 1 and National 2 that are well capable of playing this, and they're loyal to their clubs, and I think they should be rewarded the same as the Premiership players.
Here. Well, it's certainly all set up for a cracking evening. We wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks, Stuart. Thank you.
Yes, that was Bob McKillop, who sounds up for it, I have to say. Robin, sound like that to you as well?
Oh, without a doubt, both coaches and both coaching teams will be really up for this. Tonight, Stuart, just watching the warm-ups here, it maybe just looks like the South have got a wee bit more sort of structure about them, dare I say, but the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, of course, and we'll see how that translates into the main event when it kicks off at 7 o'clock.
Well, I think both coaches are pointing towards a high score tonight. We'd take that, wouldn't we?
Oh, all day long, and I don't see any reason why not. Bob spoke there about the talent in the ranks, and both teams are full of top quality players, and that's inter-district rugby for you. And as I mentioned before, it is a cracking spring evening here at Netherdale, and it couldn't be better teed up for a night's worth of running rugby.
Well, Graeme, bringing you in now, you've heard both coaches. What's your own thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're obviously taking it as seriously as we want them to, Stuart, and I totally agree with Robin. I think the structure and the setup just right from the start of the warm-up when we arrived here tonight, I think the South are really on it, and they've known exactly what they've been up to straight away, and whereas Edinburgh look a little bit more disjointed, but that means nothing. Come 7 o'clock and they get on that park, and you've got 7 Curry boys there that at the top end of the Premiership all season as well, and they'll certainly be no pushover, but we're just hoping for a few tries and make it exciting, and then a few people filtering in now onto the far bank in there at Netherdale, and hopefully an entertaining game for them.
Well, Neil, bringing you in now as a sort of former manager as well. You obviously know that the Caledonia Reds have been very enthusiastic over the past few years trying to get the inter-district back. The South have certainly led the way, I think. But what about Glasgow and Edinburgh? What's your own kind of take on that?
Well, you certainly feel that with them having professional teams in the city that it's maybe lost a little bit there with them, especially as Bob McKillop was alluding to, that some of their guys, it is completely new to them, whereas for Cali and the Borders, in the Borders certainly, they know about the South, and they know that Cali have kept their flag flying when they could. So a lot of their players and coaches are pretty, it's fresh in their minds, and it will always be there. But I think for Edinburgh and Glasgow it is a bit of a fresh start. I think you get that feel from them. So we need to get a bigger buy-in from them, Stuart, is my opinion. I think we need to get them onto the same wavelength as the South and Cali, and we could really have a complete and completely new inter-district championship, the new model of it, and it could be a big thing if it was all bought into.
What about this history then of the South, which goes back a long time? We've seen them play New Zealand, the Australians, the South Africans, Fiji, Argentina, all these great teams. That's confined to history, we know that, but there's a new era now, isn't there? And that stepping stone between club level and the semi-pro level, it kind of fits in beautifully there, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does. I mean, I had a couple of look at a couple of games that, because COVID actually scuppered it. We were in talks with like Cambridge University at the time for their warm-up game for the varsity and things like that, and they were very much at the time, they were pie in the sky, if you want to say, at the time, because of how it would be worked, but it was in talks, and fixtures were always a problem because the SIU or whoever's doing fixtures, there was no place for it in the calendar, Stuart. So at that time it was really difficult, but you look around now and you see that what you're saying there, that there's teams in the middle, Stuart, that could suit playing the south of Scotland. Who's to rule out playing a Belgium or something like that, that would come here? A home and away thing with an evolving nation would be a big thing. Something like that was always in the back of my mind before COVID, but obviously things have moved on a lot. So, but the ideas are out there, and if it was to be pulled together again, it could be massive.
And people keep coming up to me, Graeme, and saying, how about a game between the South and the Southern Knights? What about that?
It would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? A fully amateur team against a semi-professional side, and I would back the amateurs all day long. But we talk about history, of the South, and I know the history of the older games that have gone now, and that is built in stone. But I remember sort of the mid-90s going as a 10, 11-year-old to watch the South games then, and these were massive occasions. And 4 or 5, I remember one game, I can't remember who they were playing, but the South were playing at Mansfield, and there must have been 4,000 or 5,000 people there, watching the thing that stood out to me that night was Benzo playing in the back row, for Kelso, and just the hardest man I've ever seen in a rugby field. And I thought this was great as an 11-year-old laddie, just thinking this was brilliant. But that made me want to then represent my district even more. And I think if we can get it back to, it might never get back to those levels where internationals are playing week in, week out, but if we can get it back to a spectacle and people really want to be there and on that field, and that'll hopefully bring the most out of them for their club as well. Well, you're listening to Borders Rugby Radio on a Tuesday night, live from Netherdale, brought to you by the Queen's Head in Kelso. And yesterday we sat down with a couple of South legends who both played for Scotland and the British and Irish Lions. You'll hear from Peter Dodds in a moment after my chat with John Rutherford.
I've always believed in the South. I think club players need a level to aspire to. The South gives them that, and it's a great opportunity for these lads to play together. Instead, normally they're knocking lumps out of each other, and great. I love playing for the South, and you always played with great players, and it was an opportunity. I'm so pleased, and I understand the club internationals coming back as well. So you have the districts, your best players from your districts playing in that, and then the best district players playing club international, and I think that'll be really important for a club season going forward.
I remember talking to you at the Caledonia game at Riverside Park at Jedburgh, and you were mentioning then that you were hoping that it would be back for good, and it hasn't actually happened like that. They've only been one game, in fact, Caledonia away at Bridge Hall since then, so you'll be absolutely thrilled that the inter-district is back.
Yeah. Do you know that the Premiership are only 10 teams, so there's space there for this. So I think that'll make it easier to fit a district championship into the calendar, because there's too much rugby, Stuart. I mean, I'm looking at the session. These white boys must be knackered. But if we fit, I understand we're trying to fit it into a different part of this season, but really important. And I mean, I'm so pleased that we can watch the South again.
Tell us about your own favourite memories of the South, because you're very passionate about the team, the brand, the South of Scotland.
Yeah. Well, when you played for Selkirk, we were always up against it, Stuart. And I always thought guys like me and Roy and Keith Robertson from Melrose, there was a lot expected of you. And then you came at the South team and every player was an international, Stuart. And you really just had to concentrate on doing your role in the team, what standoffs are expected to do, because everybody else was an international player. So for me it was just great playing with that level of player. And I suppose the playing against the All Blacks, the South African teams that came over, I mean, these were great. You'd play in front of 18,000 people. And you think the Borders, the whole population of the Borders is probably 90,000. And we were pulling in crowds like that. So I'm hoping that the Border rugby supporters will come out in force
Because it is unique, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why, as I said at the beginning, I think it's so important that we have a South team down here.
What was it like for you wearing those red and white shirts?
I think it was, that was your ambition. I think when you were younger and you were playing club rugby at Gala and thing, that was the next step up a level and things like that. And I think I was maybe 18 at the time, and I think Arthur Brown was playing fullback for the South End and whatever. But then when I came into the Gala team, Arthur swapped to 10 to allow me to play at 15. And that season I went on and progressed, into the South team, where we went on a tour to Devon and Cornwall, which was something else with 10, 12 hour bus journeys and things like that in these days and whatever, playing the Saturday and then the Sunday and home on the Monday.
But great mixing with the other players from the other clubs.
Yeah, but it was great playing with other players and things like that. You're playing with guys that are at a really high standard, and yourself, you've got to lift to that standard to be the same as them.
Now, of course, this is a great honour for a lot of these boys receiving the tie and the shirt as well. And one of these recipients, your own son,
he's plugged away at his game over the years and thing. And as you say, I think it's a nice reward at the end of the day for him to get that game for the South. And I'm really pleased for him. It's not just for him. I think it's great for Borders Rugby that the district championship is back again, even although in a short format, but hopefully it'll take off in years to come, because I think we were lucky to play for the South at the time. It was in the old district championship, but we went on tours to Leinster, Ulster, Connacht and that, and in these days we put one over them and beat them, and you only need to look at them now, what they're doing, and also it was great when you were playing for the South that touring teams come over once a year, the All Blacks or Argentina, Japan, Fiji and things like that, and we've had some great results against them.
What was your favourite game? Was it the 9-6 against Australia?
Well, I think it was at the end of the day. It was a terrible day, a dark wet day and things like that, and I think when you it was going to be a slog at the end of the day, and it wasn't going to take much to win it at the end of the game, a penalty or something, and that's what happened. But no, it was very pleasing, because I think that was 84, I think, and I think we were the only Saturday team to beat them on their 12 or 13 game tour of the UK.
Two legends from the area, Selkirk's John Rutherford and Gala's Peter Dodds, and both still very much part of those clubs as well. Well, after the break, we'll be bringing you live commentary of the South against Edinburgh.
This is Borders Rugby Radio.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing coffee, a glass of wine and a light bite in our courtyard bar, or an overnight stay in one of our comfortable rooms, you're always assured a warm and friendly welcome at the Queen's Head Hotel, Kelso. Our 18th century inn is the perfect location to relax and unwind, and an ideal base from where to explore the stunning Borders countryside. Pop in and see for yourself. You'll be glad you did. The Queen's Head Hotel in Bridge Street, Kelso. Find out more at queensheadhotelkelso.com.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
It's a Tuesday night down here at Netherdale. The sun is shining. There's a big crowd in the stand. We're about to see the return of the South. Your commentary team tonight: Neil Hinnigan, Graeme Dodds, Robin Purdie, and first, Dale Clancy.
Yes, hello and welcome. And the tournament, the inter-district tournament, was first established all the way back in 1953, and it has changed in waves and fits over time as the professional area takes a grip on rugby across Britain. But one thing that has stayed constant throughout that whole time is the appetite for inter-district rugby here in the south of Scotland. And where it's led us is there's a big majority have voted to bring back this tournament in July 2021. 46 clubs voted in favour to bring back this championship, and the majority of them are from the south of Scotland. Edinburgh just making their way onto the pitch in their navy and thin white hoop tops, and then the South captain Sean Muir in the back of helping lead his club team to a historic double, leads the South onto this pitch to lock horns with Edinburgh, with a place in the inter-district final up at stake on the 21st of May. A few players to in the South starting line-up. Stuart Hutchison and Bruce Colvin are the half-back pairing from Melrose. And Dwayne Patterson makes his first start in the wing since his debut season back in 2019. In the second row, players like Sir Andrew McComb get the nod, and Bruce McNeil, rolling back the years, nailing down the blindside flanker jersey at number 6, joined alongside Liam Scott and Jay Linton, making up a 3-club back row. For Edinburgh, they've certainly got a dangerous couple of wingers in there, and Ian Sim and Lewis Wells, who's excelled in the Premiership this season. Ex-Peebles hooker Ryan Stewart is in the front row for Edinburgh, with Currie captain Rhys Davies, partner in Rudy Campbell, in the back row. Match official Callum Lazenby getting play underway, and Struan Hutchison just kicks proceedings off here and kicks it deep into the Edinburgh 22. It's been gathered by Davies above his head. He runs into contact, and the red and white wall of the South is there just to try and thwart any comfortable exit out of their own area. Well passed away there by Aaron Porteous of Stewart's Melville. Manages just to bring some of his bulkier forwards into proceedings to steady the ship, to get the platform to kick downfield. And it's a right-footed box kick. He doesn't make much in the way of territory, and it's been well watched there, and it bounces and bobbles, but well scooped up by Sean Muir. And the South get the ball back inside Edinburgh territory for the first time in this game. Colvin finds Rennick, and Fraser Rennick starting at hooker for the South. Runs into contact, and robust defence coming on from Edinburgh, but now Hutchison looks to feed Andrew Mitchell, bouncing back in field, thinks he spots a gap, but it closes quickly as Colvin gets there, finds Hutchison, but it's been charged down early for Edinburgh, and there's a chance here as they look to scamper and really capitalise on that loose ball. Well flagged down there by Finlay Simpson, but the referee's going to bring that back. Struan Hutchison doing well to cover again, but it's been a very physical start for the sides, but the South almost running into a bit of trouble.
Yeah, it was Struan Hutchison with the kick that was charged down, but what I really liked about that deal was his recovery. He absolutely got back and he lined up his man and absolutely flattened him. Textbook tackle, and that's what you want to see from his big players. You know, he made the error, didn't dwell on it, didn't wallow. He just got back and done his job, and the Edinburgh players coughed it up now for a South scrum.
The South team made up of 11 Hoyk players, 2 from Selkirk, 2 from Musselburgh, 3 Melrose, 3 Kelso, and also 2 from Gala make up the match day squad. And Bruce Colvin now just loitering by the tunnel at the scrum, just feeds, and quite a sturdy scrum at that. It's starting to crab towards the left hand side, but Jay Linton picks and runs straight at the fly half for Edinburgh, which is Jamie Looms, who takes a clattering from the big bulky number 8. There's Colvin now in the box, kicks it downfield. Dwayne Patterson is tasked to chase this and put a bit of pressure on Wells. He grabs his left leg, and then Wells is able to release the ball to Charlie Brett. Brett's got some support there in Campbell, who goes back in field, and then linking up well Edinburgh on the attack here over the 22, and it looks like they're going to be the first team going for the score, and it's Ali McCallum. Some great open field play there from Edinburgh, capitalising on that kick, managing just to find that gap, get through those loose tackles and score.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad kick either, Dale. It was quite a good competitive kick there from Bruce Colvin, and a wee bit hesitant there from the chasing players. Dwayne Patterson maybe not getting up in the air as quick, and putting in a decent tackle all the same, but the offload came from the Edinburgh players, and 4 passes later and under the posts.
Yeah, it was good play there from Edinburgh, and they strike first here on 3 minutes. So the South go behind for the opening here in the return of the Inter-District Championships, and it's a chance for Jamie Looms, after getting melted by Jay Linton, replies with a conversion, so it's first blood to Edinburgh.
Yeah, it was just, I agree with Graeme. I think Dwayne Patterson could have just got up and contested and made it a lot harder for them to settle under the ball, and when they did, they took full advantage, and it was great handling actually. Rue Campbell in the middle there, and a great finish by the big second row Ali Campbell. Showed a bit of pace there for the second row.
Played 13 games so far this season, Ali Campbell, in Currie colours, and got 1 try, and he's played 3 minutes in Edinburgh colours and got a try, so quite a good strike rate currently, and is representing his district. And kick off going back into the 22 as Davies gathers again and looks to power his way through a couple of challenges. He manages to make a couple of hard earned yards, but sets up the platform for Looms to link up with his outside backs, and to try and pick the lock there as Neil Armstrong thought he found some space. Now Porteous runs straight into Rennick, and he's over that ball as they try and release Ryan Stewart and bring their bulky ball carriers to dislodge the South defence. It's certainly been a physical opening to this tie as Armstrong again carries forward. Edinburgh showing a lot of physicality early on, which you would expect from an Edinburgh team. Has been kicked downfield as Kirk Ford just gathers the ball on the 10 metre line, then feeds Linton. Linton goes over Davies and then through Cole Imrie, who was there looking to support. Now Hutchison looking to release some players out wide as Sean Fairbairn is there. He looks to pass the ball to a teammate, but eventually goes into contact, and Edinburgh well over that ball there, and they win the penalty after what looked like a promising break from the South.
Yeah, and we spoke about the warm-ups in Edinburgh looked just maybe a wee bit more disjointed than the South, and a wee bit less regulated, if you like, but they've certainly came out the blocks fast here, and yeah, they look like they've come to play as Bob McKillop said they were going to do.
Kick from Looms at the penalty, manages to get it up to the 10 metre line. So Edinburgh taking their time here. Ryan Stewart just making his way over to the position of the AR, ready to launch this ball into the line out. The South waiting, ready and set for this set piece. Changing position to try and match up with their opposite numbers as Stewart eventually awaits the arrival of his teammates. A little bit of linking up at the front, and it's went squint and long from Ryan Stewart, and it's went into the hands of Hutchison, and Canny's all over him. Manages to clatter the South fly half, but does well to ride the challenge as Sean Muir now carries forward just on the fringes of that ruck. Bruce Colvin trying to orchestrate proceedings, getting his forward round the corner as Hutchison sitting in the pocket just kicks straight downfield. He's got well underneath that as Porteous looks to gather. Looms thinks he spots some space backfield, and it's been well gathered there by Kirk Ford, who has to return it back, and he makes some good yardage at an acute angle, but again Edinburgh just looking to play rugby in the right areas.
Yeah, absolutely, and very much a territory gain there from the Edinburgh team. It's a pretty poor kick. Stuart Hudson was sitting way too deep there and then put a kind of nothing kick up the middle of the field, and we saw the first time when a not so good kick was punished badly when they got their first try to go 7-0 up, but they're going to have to kick a lot better South if they want to get into the areas of the field, and certainly from a territory point of view, Edinburgh on top so far.
Stewart again to throw into the line out. It's flat back this time by the try scorer McCallum. Edinburgh able to sweep up that loose ball. Now Looms looking to distribute and find Davies, who powers forward. He's been wrapped up there by the experienced Bruce McNeil and Jay Linton, which is a formidable couple of people to try and run into it. But Edinburgh work the blind side, go back through Stewart, who comes back in field on the 10 metre. Edinburgh slowly but surely making some good yardage, and know they're going to be hit as they tip on there through. Davies manages to find Sword, who cuts his way through. Now Looms finds Canny. Canny goes into contact and is again being wrapped up by a couple of red and white shirts. The South doing well in defence, doubling up on their opposite men as McComb again goes low and a teammate goes high. There's numbers up on the right hand side for Edinburgh if they can work this overlap, but again the South defence is standing tall as Looms puts the fend in, tries to get the ball out of the back door, but it's just drifted forward there. The referee not going to let the advantage play, and it's pedantic and it's patient from Edinburgh, but they're making good yards.
Yeah, they are. They're making good yards, Dale, but I just think the South defence here was pretty good. They didn't make huge yards, and it was good enough to make force of the error. But for me, the South need to just get a little bit calmer and get these big forwards running at them a bit harder. And as Graeme's already said, Struan and Craig Dodds have got to find the right places from the kicks, because we've had no territory yet at all.
Yeah, been a couple of loose kicks. Well, one from Struan Hutchison, a pretty accurate kick from Colvin, which was a great counter-attack in rugby from Edinburgh, managing just to find the weak points. But it's been a tough opening 8.5 minutes here at Netherdale for the South. They currently trail by 7 points against Edinburgh, and it's a well-attended fixture as well. The banking on the far side here across from Netherdale is pretty well attended, as is the stand here as well. Well, certainly the appetite for inter-district rugby is still strong in the south of Scotland. As Colvin feeds the scrum. Again, it's starting to creep forward, and it's certainly going to be an area that's keenly contested as Linton links up with Colvin, now going down that touch side, back inside to Linton, who's making some good yardage, and now he's over the 22. He's got some support, but he might not need it if he can go on himself, and that's a terrific try from Jay Linton. great work from him and Colvin off the scrum, and it is a first phase try, and that is probably as good a try off the back of scrum as you're going to see.
Indeed, Dale, it was a wonderful piece of running, first of all by Colvin, as you say. He fed the man inside, which was Jay Linton, the wonderful player that is Jay Linton, and he must have had fully 45-50 metres, and he had options either side of him, and it looked like he might almost have too many options to play with. At the end he decided, no, enough of this, I'm going myself, this fullback's going to have to stop me here. And the fullback, probably quite rightly, didn't look like he'd want to have that much to do with it, to be honest.
Yeah, Linton looked like he had the pace on the fullback.
Absolutely, and a pretty good scrum over that far side, wheeled up that left side to take it towards the touchline, and Bruce Colvin, with all his experience, took the ball at the right time and got away from his man, and you're not going to stop Jay Linton for there. He was waiting for the defenders to come to him, and it just never actually came, and he's quick, he's quick for a big man, he'd be 18 stone and on the hoof, as Robin said. I wouldn't want to try and stop him.
I'm about 18 stone, but I'm certainly not quick. Downhill, maybe.
Or 6'3".
Yeah, that as well. On the right weight, just the wrong height. Kick here for Craig Dodds, who's in familiar surroundings here at Netherdale. Right-footed kicker. Just inside the 5 metre line, just outside the 22. Taking his time, a slow build up here. Bit of pressure from Sim, but it's a good connection, and it's sailing towards the post, but not accurate. It's a testing kick, but the South will be really happy with the response.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what they needed. And as Neil said in the previous clip, they just need to get some territory back, get some possession, get through the phases. South haven't really been through 3 or 4 phases effectively, and hopefully that'll just settle them down a little bit. We're only 11 minutes in, and it's pretty much eeksy-peeksy. So if they just get the ball back for this kick-off and get it through the phases and just build into the game.
Looms takes the restart. He manages to evade the South players who aren't there, but it falls into the hands of Ronan McKean, who house it downfield. It's been well gathered in the backfield by Edinburgh, looking to try and stretch the park now, going through the hands of Brett and then Looms, is hit by Dodds and Fraser Rennick, who a try scorer in the cup final at the weekend for Hawick, and he certainly is looking refreshed and revitalised as he hurtled himself into contact there. The South all over that ball, and good communication there from the South, just signalling to the referee Callum Lazenby that they felt the penalty should have came their way.
Yeah, first penalty conceded by Edinburgh. Discipline by both teams, given that they're kind of scratch teams, if you like. Discipline's been pretty good by them both, sort of 10 minutes into the game, but yeah, he was all over that like a rash, the South player, and quite rightly Lazenby has given the penalty. That's a decent nudge by Craig Dodds as well.
Yeah, he certainly made some good territory, and this is perhaps an area that the South, Neil, will be licking their lips and trying to attack from here. Yeah,
this is the bread and butter for the likes of McNeil and Muir. These guys, they were in that action there as well. Just, abrasive players that want to attack the physical side, and they're just starting to edge that at the moment. And we'll see how they go for this line-out, given that I think they'd want to test that again.
Rennick, just in the 22, manages to find his jumper there, and the maul is now formed, it's well set, and it's starting to tiptoe forward, but be met with some Navy resistance from Edinburgh. Bruce Colvin watching the tail of that maul like a hawk as it starts to crab towards the touchline, but I think Colvin does well to look to try and keep this ball in, and eventually they're bundled off of the pitch. Is well defended there by Edinburgh.
Yeah, good defence from Edinburgh. Didn't make any yards really at all, and then disrupted it there at the back, and it actually came to Bruce Colvin's hands, and I don't think he was really wanting it in that situation. It should have been with your ball player, probably hooker Fraser Rennick there, but you look at this front five, you think front five, the ball players that we've got, Sean Muir, Nicky Little, all these guys, Sean Fairbairn, they're all rugby players as well, and that's a great thing for that last play that got the penalty was a chop tackle for Liam Scott, and then your tight head prop Nicky Little's over the ball winning, as a jackal, which is, that's a step above.
McCallum gathers from the line out. They set up the maul yet again, and it starts to drive forward. The South perhaps doing well just to drop the anchor to stop any real momentum. There's not a lot of cohesion as well in that maul. And it's certainly looking scrappy over there as the South sniff some sort of opportunity as they disrupt Edinburgh at that maul. Poaches is going to have to do well to try and tidy this up, and he's been tasked with Ryan Stewart to just pick round the corner and go left. A man originally from West Linton, now playing his rugby at Maleny Park after a few seasons emerging from the Colts at Peebles. Porteous going against the blind side, finds Davies. Again, just offer himself up for an industrious carry, making those small yards to put the platform on for his scrum half to kick downfield. Now McKean looks to gather, He didn't jump, he just looked to try and maybe beat the defender. It's ricocheted off the winger and went into touch, and it's going to be a throw into the line out for Edinburgh, which in terms of that exit play, it was scrappy, but they'll probably welcome that.
Scrappy but effective, yeah, and maybe a wee bit of a chance going a begging there for the South. They had a line out from the penalty in great territory, but Graeme, is that the, thinking back to when you played in, teams that come together almost at short notice, a wee bit of lack of cohesion there? Is that fairly typical?
Yeah, but it is, I would say, especially in the early parts of the game. It'll take them probably the first half to really get to. 4 training sessions isn't a lot. It's great to get those 4 sessions in when you're still playing club rugby on a Saturday, but 4 sessions isn't a lot. And although they're all quality rugby players, it's, as you say, that little bit of cohesion, just knowing what your mate's doing, what your teammate's going to do with the next play, and that'll come as the game builds on. I'm hoping that the South come to the fore in that respect. They'll just get to know each other that little bit better, and I think they'll want it. They'll want it so much as well. The South will not want to lose. With that red and white on their back.
The line out from Musselburgh, I was going to say, from Edinburgh. Yeah, I'm getting distracted by the tops there, but it's from Edinburgh. The line out certainly not accurate, so it means it's going to be a scrum down. It's going to be a put into the scrum for the South, so they'll get another chance to try and break free from the shackles of Edinburgh as it nudges forward. And again, it's going round at some lick as the penalty is awarded to the South. And great work from the front rows and the pair in the second row as well. Sean Fairbairn, a late call-up because of the late arrival of Badenhorst. So just a reminder of the teams. Kirk Ford starts at fullback with Patterson and McKean on the wing. Dodds and Mitchell in at centre with Colvin and Hutchison, the half-back pairing. Sean Muir, Fraser Rennick and Nicky Little make up a full Hoyk front row with Andrew McComb, and now Sean Fairbairn in the second row with Bruce McNeil, Liam Scott and Jay Linton in the back row. Edinburgh, they start with Charlie Brett, Ian Sim and Lewis Wells as a back three, with Neil Armstrong and Greg Canny at centre. Aaron Porteous and Edinburgh Aki's fly half, Jamie Looms are the half-back parent. Cole Imrie, Ryan Stewart and Graham Carson make up the front row. Jamie Sword and Ali McCallum, the try scorer for Edinburgh, make up the second row, with Finn Simpson, Rhys Davis and Rudy Campbell making up the back row for the visitors this evening. The South opting to take the penalty and the pop at the sticks, and this would be the first time they've been in the lead in this fixture. 17 minutes on the clock, and Craig Dodds with a kick just in between the 22 and the 15. Short run up for the South inside centre, good connection, and it's been well watched by the assistant referees, and it's successful. And not only does that put the South in front, but that'll do Craig Dodds the world do good after missing his earlier attempt.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's it's a settler for a goal kicker, isn't it? It's his job now. He teaches kicking, so he should be slotting these over. I always wind him up about that, but he's a great kicker. He has been for over a decade now, and he wasn't going to miss 2 in a row, that's for sure.
Looms restarting play and went straight to Linton, who just starts to get the wheels turning and travels forward into Ali McCallum. The Curry second row was waiting there, just ready for the powerful burst from Jay Linton, the try scorer for the South. Returned back downfield, and he's been gathered there in the backfield by Rudy Campbell, who typically just waits in the pocket, as Hutchison does well to gather in the full-back position, travels forward, beats the first man, but then he's been wrapped up there by Jamie Sword. Now the South thinking there's some space over there, and they manage to stretch and get Dwayne Patterson on the ball. He looks to try and go back in field as well initially. He had to keep his feet because he started to travel south towards the ground as he was tripping up, but does well to stay tall, get the ball back, because Lewis Wells has done well to tackle his opposite man. Colvin finds Dodds. Dodds floats that flat ball across to Dwayne Patterson. The challenge was slightly high, so I think the referee is going to stop the clock there, have a little conversation with the assistant referee there, but that was definitely looked like a high challenge.
Yeah, it did. I think the initial hit was probably in the chest, and he rode up as Dwayne went lower into the ground, and he's going to give the penalty, but nothing more than that, which is it's good refereeing, good officiating there, because there was nothing malicious in it for me.
Agree there?
Yeah, I totally agree. It was accurate chest, but it just because nowadays you go there and you're asking for a penalty. I think a penalty was a fair decision.
Craig Dodds just banana kicks it to the right hand side of the pitch, which means he's now encroached in the Edinburgh 22. And Fraser Rennick is quick there. The South players then arrive en masse, ready to pluck this ball from the sky. They take McComb at the front. He does well, brings it down and presents it back for his South teammates just to cluster and huddle round the the ball, try and protect it. It starts to crab towards the touchline, but Colvin does well to distribute the ball. Mitchell with some good footwork inside. He manages just to take two centres out of the game as they have to bring the big Hoik ball carrier down to ground. And now Rennick, he's tackled. He has to work hard to present the ball back as a Edinburgh player is in the road, as Bruce McNeil then picks up and looks to go it alone. Again fighting and twisting and weaving out of contact. Now Muir takes the ball forward. The South players working hard to get back in a position that they can offer their services in. It's Craig Dodds puts a beautiful delicate chip across, and Dwayne Patterson's on the end of it. And that is as subtle as you like from the inside centre. And Patterson, who's in his probably unfamiliar position of wing, is just loitering in the backfield, ready to pounce on that ball. And it was a great score.
Yeah, what was good about that is Dwayne's actually played on this side of the park, but he's in there looking, he was round off his wing, and maybe that's the experience of playing in the centre all season. He's looking for that space, and nice little kick by Dodds. The defences aren't quick, and Patterson does well to finish it because it was a bubbling ball, but he gets it down. And yeah, I think the South deserved that for the territory they've had in the last 5 minutes.
Good work off the ball. 20 minutes gone. It's the South 13, Edinburgh 7. And it was certainly a well orchestrated move.
Oh, massively. You can take it right back to the award of the penalty, and shout out to Craig Dodds as well as a beautiful assist. He put in a tremendous banana kick, which he had no right to get as far down the touchline from the tight angle he was, and that just set the wheels in motion.
It's now Craig Dodds to try and nudge over the conversion. He's certainly liking this far end of the Netherdale pitch. A missed conversion attempt, a successful penalty. And from a similar position to his first kick, he looks to try and add the 2 points. He's got well under it. Again, it's been watched closely by the assistant referees, and it's a successful conversion attempt from Craig Dodds, which means that the South extend their lead here. It's now 15 points to 7.
Yeah, deft play there again from Craig Dodds. It's clever rugby. You know, he saw the Edinburgh defence coming up hard, and it did come up hard, and he was going to get absolutely knocked upside down, and he saw that. But him and Dwayne had obviously discussed it before on that phase before, and just a little stab through the grubber kick and perfect bounce for the Kelso man to score.
It was a congested, tight area, but Dodds was able to get the ball onto his toe quickly, and Patterson was able to extend the South lead. It was a fragile lead, but a quarter of the game gone. The South now lead 15 points to 7, but from the kick-off, Jay Linton is not able to protect that ball, and it's been knocked on, so Edinburgh will want to try and reply straight away because they've got the scrum just outside of the South 22.
Yeah, wee mistake there by Linton. He's a really strong game so far, but yeah, I think going back to that try, Dwayne Patterson playing in the 14 jersey, Craig Dodds playing in the 12 jersey, maybe just a classic case of get your best rugby players out there, and the number on the back of the jersey doesn't really matter.
Yep. The referee just waiting to get these two front rows together as Aaron Porteous, only one of two Stuart's Melville players on the pitch, feeds the scrum. He's just lurking, waiting for the ball to appear at the tail, and finds Greg Canny, and coming flat there is Neil Armstrong. He's been wrapped up again well by the South defence. Now the ball carrier's starting to come in. It's Finlay Simpson, juggles the ball, and then eventually Porteous finds a gap. He throws the dummy, and he's got some support outside, but Patterson does well to try and get that off the pitch. I'll try and gather it at least, because Lewis Wells was just lurking behind him. But great play from Porteous just to spot that gap, and a bit complacent from the South.
Yeah, disappointing there. They were disappointed there that the coaches that they got beat so close into the ruck there. You know, Guard, Shield and A obviously weren't quite cohesive, and that's probably what Robin was alluding to earlier on. Just that little bit of togetherness and just knowing what your mate's doing. And as I say, that will come the more they play together, the more minutes that they get under their belt. But for the 9 to step through there from 4 or 5 yards out for the ruck will be disappointing, and something that wouldn't want to happen again.
There's not a lot of minutes to get it all ticking. We've got 80 minutes here to play, and they're all looking towards that final for the Inter-District Championship. Obviously only 2 games in this revitalised Inter-District Championship, which was voted in by the clubs. The winner of this fixture will play the winner of Glasgow versus Caledonia, and it's currently the South 15, Edinburgh 7. 24 minutes gone, and Jamie Looms steps up. Right-footed kick for the penalty, and it's in front of the sticks, and it's as easy as you like for the Edinburgh fly half, and he narrows the margins, and it's now the South 15, Edinburgh 10.
Yeah, from an Edinburgh point of view, Dale, they really had to get the next score for me. I think the way the South were starting to get on top, they had to check them somewhere along the line, and a penalty is as good as anything at the moment. It's got to keep Edinburgh in this game and keep them in the fight, because it was just starting to go one way, but now it could swing the other way, and who knows. But the South will be a bit disappointed there that they gave away a cheap 3 points.
Kick-off downfield, Porteous finds it and then sizes up his options, looks to exit and get a little bit more territory downfield. He's able to get out of the 22, but just shy of the 10-metre line, so the South, straight off the kick-off, are afforded the possession of the ball again. And there's going to be a throw into the line out, and Fraser Rennick is going to have a conversation with Sean Muir just to go through the final repertoires of what's expected at this line out. Two players who know each other very well, but Rennick perhaps thrown into a player he doesn't know as well, because Liam Dodds is the player that gathers, and Bruce McNeil splinters off the side, feeds Jay Linton, who looked to try and go low, but Davies had marked him and had checked him, as McKean going out the back is just not able to gather the ball as he's travelling at speed and it's being girdled and knocked on, so possession given straight back to Edinburgh.
Yeah, it's not far away. You can see how the South are trying to play. They're trying to put out their back and just pull the Edinburgh defence out of position as quick as possible, and just a little bit of a eye off the ball there from Ronan McKean. But what a season he's had for Hawick, and getting that try in the final on Saturday just kind of tapped it off for him. But he'll not let that bother him. He'll get the ball the next time and open his legs up as he's done all season.
They scored two very important tries for Hawick this season. He was one of their top try scorers in league action as well, but got the winning try for the Premiership win against Curry at Mansfield, and then he got the try that kick-started Hawick's resurgence in the final on Saturday past it for a historic double. And the scrum there is starting to anchor forward, but Liam Scott just puts pressure on Porteous, and then the janitorial duties fall to Jay Linton, who sweeps up and then carries into the Edinburgh 22, and now the South sniff an opportunity. The ball is low, it's bobbling about, but it's been well gathered by Kirk Ford, who's up in the attacking line. He does well to gather and put a little bit more impetus back into this move for the South as Sean Muir carries forward. He picks a hole in defence and manages just to nudge his shoulders through. That flat pass to Jay Linton has been gathered well, and he manages to shrug the first challenge, looks to offload as Edinburgh to try and snaffle on that loose bouncing ball, but it's not worked out for them as Craig Dodds finds a little gap, feeds Mitchell, if he can get the free arm, has got support outside him, but he's been shackled by the Edinburgh defence. And then coming round the corner, ducking underneath is Andrew McComb, just shy of the line again as the South come knocking at the door, as Sean Muir now burrows his way forward towards that try line and eventually gets over, and the South reply almost instantaneously. 2 minutes after conceding a penalty, they managed to barge their way through the door, and it's their captain Sean Muir.
No better man do you want coming from that sort of range than Sean Muir. It was great play all round by the South, started by Liam Scott catching the scrum half at the base, absolute meat and drink to a flanker of his quality, and from there several phases, good cohesive play, and the South are over.
Yeah, it was just maybe slightly a little bit inexperienced from Porteous at 9. He allowed in the back row not covering, giving him enough time to get that away. The scrum was actually going forward, and I think they were looking for a penalty that wasn't coming, and he decided to go at the wrong time and absolutely smashed by Liam Scott, and that was really what started that off. I mean, big credit to Liam Scott for that try, but well finished by Muir in the forwards. Yeah,
it was patient play in the end, especially when it started to grind to a halt. They still kept that momentum in their passage of play, and eventually when they looked to try and release Mitchell, and I think Mitchell is playing with so much confidence at the moment, he was able just to pick that hole in defence and get closer to the line, and then from a couple of metres out it's difficult to try and stop Sean Muir. And now Craig Dodds with the attempt to try and add the extras on the right hand side of the sticks this time, and it's accurate and it's curling round, and it's another successful conversion attempt for Craig Dodds, and it stretches the South's lead here. It's now 22 points to 10 with half an hour played. I
would like to see Sean Muir's stats for the season for his carries for a loose head prop. I mean, it's unbelievable the work he gets through for a big man, and very much a captain's role, a leader, but the ball carrying he does is unbelievable. The games I've watched Hawick this season, it must be between him and Jay Linton, the two best ball carriers in the league for me, but he's always standing up with his hand in the air wanting that ball.
Looms kicks off downfield, gathered by Ford, who's got plenty of time to try and size up and angle the ball where he wants it. He's watching it ghost towards Rudy Campbell, who's passing back in field to Brett. Brett's got Looms again, just in the pocket, who dances, looks to try and stab it through and benefit on a bouncing, bobbling ball, but it fell into the hands of the South again. Advantage coming the way of the home side. Colvin linking up on the stand side now releasing Ronan McKean. He looks to stab it and kick it forward, but it's been charged down there into the hands of Armstrong, but the referee going to bring that back for the penalty, and it went the South's way. And it's a great response from the kick-off after scoring a try.
Yeah, I often think if a back catches it in the 22 nowadays, it's like an extra set piece of kick-offs. If the back's a good kicker, you take your opportunity then to clear. How many times do you see teams trying to do something just a little bit over the top from their own 22, and as a result the last time, I know Jay Linton had to carry first, but sometimes I think we can overplay from that position, but Kirkford's got a beautiful boot, takes his chance and gets it away, and you know, it's played it to the South there because Edinburgh are now overplaying it, you know.
And it's interesting you say that, because obviously he's in his natural position, really good kicker, but there's a few combinations in there as well. You know, the South looks a little bit more cohesive, as we said in the build-up. How important is that to the South's cause in this championship? Because the intent is obviously to win it, but how important are those combinations, likes of the Melrose halfbacks, you know, the Hoyk front row, those sort of combinations?
Yeah, well, it's massive. I think that's what can make it happen quicker. If you get a 50-50 call in the selection, but it's his teammate that's next to him, I think sometimes that goes in their favour, especially playing 9s and 10s in front rows.
It was really interesting for me when Bob McKillop said in the build-up about having a beer on a Wednesday night to get to know each other as players. You know, these South boys know each other. You know, whether not just because they're playing against each other, they just know who each other are. And you know, there's not one boy who'd have to go up to another boy at the first session for the South and have to introduce himself. It just never happened, and it never will happen for our district. And that surely is a 5-point start to start with tonight.
I would just like to say I met Ian Swinton, who's doing logistics for the South, and he says that the Musselburgh players had been blown away by how that works in the South. They'd never seen anything like that, and how quickly people knew each other straight there. They were the only ones, and to start we felt a little bit outside, but certainly not now, and that was pleasing to hear.
Yeah, and you get the feeling when you're at the ground this evening about the appetite and the excitement about the South. Is Fraser Rennick now, after a great penalty kick downfield, is looking to throw into a line out that's been well gathered by Dodds, who pretty much orchestrated the last try, and now the South look to try and nudge their way closer to the line. It's started to twist into a position which is perhaps more favourable as Fraser Rennick splinters away from them all, but he's been caught short. And now patient build-up and play from the South as McNeil and Colvin link up. Now the South again looking to go round the corner and try and use their big ball carriers to unlock this defence and barge their way over the try line. Colvin now releasing Dodds. Dodds has got some support outside him, and Hutchison releasing McKean, who can't gather the ball, and he was over the try line but just not able to get the ball under his spell, because you would imagine the big powerful winger would have been in for a meat pie there, but just not able to gather.
No, he wasn't. The try goes a begging, but I think there's going to be a penalty coming, Dale, I think, so they'll have another opportunity. But Craig Dodds again, take a bow, beautiful bit of handling in there, and the kick to touch from wherever he was down at the 5-metre line, he is having a wow of a game at the moment.
Yeah, the South certainly runs in the genes anyway, in the Dodds family, and he's putting on a great performance so far. 32 minutes gone, it's the South currently leading 22 points to 10 against Edinburgh. Live on Borders Rugby Radio on a Tuesday night from Netherdale in the revitalised Inter-District Championship. And it's another chance here for the South when play gets back underway to put some pressure back on Edinburgh. Yeah, that was a disappointing end to that. You know, it was obviously a free ball there for the South, but Ronan McKillop was disappointed. Stuart Hutchison's pass was a wee bit high and a wee bit behind him, to be fair. But you know, it was great play out the back twice. You know, and good hands for Dodds to pull it out the back there, and it'd have been nice if the South had finished it off, but unfortunately they didn't. But at least they've still got possession here with the scrum to come.
As a number 8, Graeme, would your money be on Linton going for the line here off the right hand side?
If I was as good as Jay Linton, I'd be asking Nicky Little to get up on the right and I'll have 5 points, please. Yeah. But I was never as quick as him, unfortunately. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a go-to ball here with a left-hand scrum on the 15-yard line, 5 yards out. It's a wee nudge up on the right-hand side. You know, manipulate that scrum. Sean Muir just takes a little bit off it. Just need half a yard, and Jay will go at the outside of Davies, but. You know, it's a quality open side, so if he gets outside him, he's doing well.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's going to be an interesting passage of play here. The South opt in for the scrum, just blob on the 5-metre line. Just 15 metres or so in from the bank inside touch as well. Playing towards the Netherdale end is Colvin. Pops the ball into the scrum. It's got an initial nudge back from Edinburgh, but then the surge comes on from the south and it's charging forward at the rate of knots, and it's had to be swept up there by Jay Linton at the tail. He does well to gather the ball as Bruce McNeil tries to power his way over the line. The referee in a good position awards the try, and the South are over for another score, and they stretch their lead here. And it's the effervescent Bruce McNeil who gets the score.
That's his range, you know. Old Brucey gets over from a yard out, and I mean, the man would agree with me when he hears this back that he's an expert from a yard out these days. But he scored 14 tries in National 1 this year, and most of them have been give or take from that range. But he is deadly. You know, sometimes the last yard can be the hardest when you need to score, and he's a master at doing that. So I'm not surprised to see him coming up with the ball from there.
I think I even got a stitch watching him running from a metre out. So, but it was a good finish, and it's all the work from the platform up front.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the scrum was going forward at a rate of knots, and it actually hindered Jay Linton. It sort of got a bit bubbly at the back there. He did really well to mop it up, and yeah, from there they were knocking at the door, and there was only going to be one outcome ultimately, and no better man, as you've both alluded to, no better man than Bruce McNeil from that sort of range.
Craig Dodds to try and further stretch the South's lead here, 27 points to 10, so it's a handsome advantage after going behind after 3 minutes. It's a right-footed kick again, 15 metres in, and it's a good connection. He's down quickly to gather his tee, which is usually the sign of a confident kicker, and from the round of applause that ripples around Netherdale, you can perhaps draw the conclusion that was a successful conversion attempt from Craig Dodds, and it's now the South 29, Edinburgh 10.
I think it's interesting, you know, that we talked about getting that scrum up on the right there, and because Sean Muir is such a strong scrummager, it's almost hard to get up on the right, because Sean will never be wanting to take a step back to open that up. But no, Jay Linton mopped it up really well, and you talk about 1 yard tries, and Wayne Mitchell was the very best at that. He scored 95 tries for Melrose in 326 appearances.
Ridiculous.
And I think he accumulated about less than 200 yards anyway.
Gathered by Bruce McNeil from the kick-off there, and he was just head down. That certainly wasn't from a yard away, as he managed to just eat up about 10 metres or so and spark some life into a South attack deep from inside their own half. They're now playing with some confidence and some verve now. As Colvin finds Hutchison back in the pocket, and he drops it on his right foot, again getting right underneath it, trying to put some pressure on Looms. Looms gathers well and then dances towards the touchline, but is almost escorted off by the South, who want to try and get him off the field of play, but the carry forward from the big powerful second rows come in the second wave for Edinburgh now. Canny playing first receiver, manages to find a teammate in Imrie, who tips on to Simpson, who carries forward. The advantage coming the way of Edinburgh as Pope just travels with the ball and then looks to float the ball across, does well to find Campbell. That's a brilliant ball there, as Wells now has got the ball in hand, powers forward. He manages just to fend off forward, but Colvin is ragged round his ankles there as Davies just picks and goes straight through the ruck, one-handed, looking to offload the ball. It's just been dislodged as Fraser Rennick has manages to put a shoulder into the Curry captain, the captain of Edinburgh as well, and the ball just bobbles off the field of play and a throw into the line out for the South.
They're always trying to get the ball into Lewis Wells' hands, you can see them, but he is a real danger. I mean, he's just not been able to cut loose yet, but powerful runner and loads of pace. He's been maybe a bit raw in the sevens this year, but you can see from the raw talent he has got, if they can get him out of space, he'll be a danger man.
Excellent Lithgow winger who's found himself at Edinburgh Accies and was scoring tries for fun in the first part of the season. Wells is a dangerous exponent on the left wing for Edinburgh. Played a bit of time for Edinburgh in the Super Series as well, so certainly on the radar. As Bruce Colvin links up with Stuart Hutchison, who releases Dwayne Patterson. He's going to put it on the toe, kick it downfield and try and make a foot race of it. The bouncing ball is just dribbled over the try line now, as Edinburgh look like they've got this covered and dotted down through Charlie Brett inside the goal area. But again, another sharp and crisp counter-attack from the South.
Stuart Hutchison, right at the heart of it. Sharp's the right word there. They just look that half a yard sharper, the South. And I was going to mention earlier on, actually, Edinburgh could do bringing Rory Campbell into the game a bit more, or he could do getting himself into the game a bit more. But we just seen what he was all about there. Beautiful handling to set Wells free, and Edinburgh are going to need that pair to remain constant for the rest of this game if they're going to have a chance to claw their way back in it.
The goal line drop out downfield has been gathered by Dodds, who then just beeline straight for the 22. Thinks he finds a gap, but Simpson's there out the back door. Great offload from the South's inside centre, sets up the platform centre field as Hutchison gathers the ball, finds Sean Muir running at the flattest of angles straight into the shoulder of Ryan Stewart, who passively tries to challenge the South captain. Then Nicky Little with a run forward, and Hutchison again hot-footing it into position to try and release the outside backs as Liam Scott finds himself in the wider channels, linking up with the wingers, and the centres looking to interlink play, but the South getting caught, and Edinburgh trying to slow things down, and again the South winning a penalty.
Yeah, they're making good yards now. They're crisping the pass, and as you said, flat pass to Sean Muir right on that gain line, and then it's quick ball. The support's there really quickly. It's quick ball. It's 3 passes into the width again, and they're just putting the Edinburgh defence under massive duress, and then the penalties are going to come if they're working that hard.
You'd imagine here that they're just eyeing up a little nudge into the corner, and a little bit of time left to play. This is a chance for just before half time for the South to extend their lead as Dodds nudges it towards that 5 metre line, and I think we all know what's coming next.
Yeah, well, you'd fully expect that they will go for the driving ball or some sort of maybe a move, but I would go for the drive.
It's Rennick, the ball hoisted above his head, waiting for the targets to appear, and they do towards the tail, but it's almost been flat back as Linton does well to gather, find Dodds, and Dodds bouncing off his right foot back in field to where the support is. Great play by the inside centre, just to notice that as the tip-on comes from Dodds, finds Muir carrying forward at pace. The ball set up there for Colvin to distribute to Little, who's then got McComb, who burrows his way underneath the Edinburgh limbs as Hutchison gets back into place. And now McKean's got a chance here to go in between the runners, but just not able to because there's a bit of crossing centre field. The referee feeling that the South were obstructing. So the chance there for the South passes them by, and Edinburgh get the penalty.
Yeah, another, as Graeme mentioned, Sean Muir came flat again, exactly as he did before, and the ball on the back of that, just so clean, it's so crisp, and it just gives them such a great attacking platform.
And that's the half-time whistle now, so the referee's drawn the first 40 minutes to an end, and for the South it's been a very fruitful 40 minutes. It's been tries from Patterson, Muir, McNeil and Linton, because they had to reply to a very quick try out the traps from Ali McCallum for Edinburgh. It means that the South are well and truly in the driving seat, because at half-time here at Netherdale it's the South 29, Edinburgh 10.
This is Borders Rugby Radio.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing coffee, a glass of wine and a light bite in our courtyard bar, or an overnight stay in one of our comfortable rooms, you're always assured a warm and friendly welcome at the Queen's Head Hotel, Kelso. Our 18th century inn is the perfect location to relax and unwind, and an ideal base from where to explore the stunning Borders countryside. Pop in and see for yourself. You'll be glad you did. The Queen's Head Hotel in Bridge Street, Kelso. Find out more at queensheadhotelkelso.com.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
Welcome back to Netherdale, and fans of the South will be quite happy about the scoreline at the moment. South of Scotland 29, Edinburgh 10, but as we almost expected, after the South came back in 2009, in every single game they have gone behind at the start and then gone on to win. So the same has happened here. And Robin, no real surprise.
Well, they almost lulled Edinburgh into a wee bit of a false sense of security with that early try, but they hit back so impressively, and there really are some star performers out there in the old famous red and white hoops. Craig Dodds is playing particularly well, but Dwayne Patterson's going well. The forwards are well on top now, and the man to my right, Graeme Dodds, said to me pre-game that he thinks this might be 50 points, and I was a wee bit dubious there, but he's obviously the expert, and I think this could quite comfortably become 50 points.
Well, I think the last time that the two met, which was probably 2001, it was something like 60-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was doing my little bit of research today, and I came across that, and I could scarcely believe it, to be honest. But yeah, they 60-0 on the 29th of December 2001, maybe a wee bit of a Christmas and Boxing Day hangover for the Edinburgh players there at Poinder. But yeah, the South in that era just had, they had the upper hand. They put 46 points on Edinburgh a year, sort of 18 months before. So yeah, it could be a similar type outcome tonight.
Well, I have to say though, the first try from Ali McCallum, Graeme, he certainly showed a bit of pace, but my goodness, why was there so much space behind him?
Well, I think it's difficult at the start of the game, and the South and Edinburgh are just coming together. It's straight out the traps, and one of those things. It's probably the best thing that could have happened from a South point of view, because it probably focused their minds a little bit as well. You know, it's a difficult one when you lose that try, but on the plus side of that, you know, you're really focused on, right, that's not happening again, and then that's exactly what happened. And South came more and more into the game as the half went on. But Edinburgh, all credit to them, when they get a chance, when they get possession, they're having a real go. And as Robin said earlier on, get the hands at Rudy Campbell, another good Melrose man. But he's played up in Edinburgh for a long time now, but good rugby player. We see him a lot in the Seventh Circuit, and he's quite often in that team of the week for the Premiership for Accies. And there's some good rugby players out there. So I think Eck and I were just talking off air there. If South had scored there, I think that's definitely game over. But if Edinburgh come out the start of the second half and get an early score, it's a whole different complexion. And
as Neil said earlier on, the South were behind 19-0 at Bridgeshaw against the Cali Reds. So they're not going to take Edinburgh for granted at all in the second half.
No, and that's the thing. They'll be in there just now with the coaching staff, and they'll be refocusing. They'll be 0-0. Said all the cliches before, but it is very much a 0-0 game when you come out, especially in these representative games. And it's massive for South to come out with the same attitude. I think their superiority will pull them through. We talked about that pack. Eck and I feel that pack would do a massive job at a higher level. That's the thing, and it'd be interesting to see them against a higher level pack.
Well, Neil, tell us a bit more about Ali McCallum. Curry boy.
Yeah, he's an athletic guy, and he's had a good year in the Premiership as well. I think he's played a lot of games for them, and as you see there, he's stretching his legs when he got going. And my feeling is, and along with Ali McCallum, Jamie Sword, it's not that they're lightweight, they just don't have as much edge as some of the South team players, like Bruce McNeil's been around the block a while, along with Sean Muir. Nicky Little is so aged into this that these guys can play a higher level. They have played a higher level, and for me, Edinburgh do look nice on the eye when they get the ball. And if anything, they could maybe play a little bit better rugby at times as the South regarding ball in hand. But if you can't get that ball enough, you'll not be able to do that. And for me, that the massive difference between the teams is the front five are for the South, maybe the whole pack as well. They're great balance in the back row, and the front five are out to do a front five's job. The Edinburgh front five are not quite as into rolling their sleeves up. They're under pressure in the scrums. So, but yeah, I mean, there is individuals in this Edinburgh team, quality operators. There's no doubt about that across the board. Ali McCallum is one of them, but even Jamie Sword, who plays National 1, who Stuart Cameron finished bottom of the league, but I believe some of the Edinburgh clubs are after Jamie, and that you can see why. He's an athlete, and he's good in the line out. And as I say, they've just for me not got enough heavyweights in the front in the pack that could give them an edge to get ball. So for me, that's where the difference lies. But across the board, 1 to 15, Edinburgh individual have got some great players. And as we've seen, like Lewis Wells, Greg Carey, when they get ball in space, very dangerous. And that was a quality try they scored at the start, Stuart.
But then, of course, they had to come back from that, and Jay Linton kind of took the reins, and he wasn't going to be stopped, was he, over that line?
Yes. No, I mean, at the end of the day, I actually thought he was going to stop at the 22. He was looking for support to make sure, but from up here you could see that if he pinned his lugs, he was definitely in, and eventually he did do that. And what an individual, well, you'll call it an individual score, but the scrum was good, and Bruce Colvin, experienced, he saw the space, put him into it, and Jay Linton showed his quality, showed his class to score from there. I mean, that was a set piece about 60 metres out, and you're scoring from that. And at that point, because the Edinburgh side had started so well, the South actually needed some inspiration, and they got it there from Jay Linton, and from that point they've never looked back.
Well, it was interesting on Saturday, of course, because the whole of Hoyk really didn't play well in the first half at all, including Jay Linton. Very uncharacteristic faults there, and I don't think Robin Purdie, who's probably his president of the Jay Linton fan club, could believe what he was seeing in the first half. But in the second half, well, he got man of the match.
Yeah, and that just tells you everything. He didn't have his best 40 minutes by his own high standards, but to come back and win man of the match just tells you exactly what he did in the second half. He was absolutely immense. And to touch upon what Neil said there about the front five and the forwards on top, you talk about spines of teams, and you look at the spine of this South team. Sean Muir is he's well on top at the moment. Jay Linton, Bruce McNeil, all the pack, but even at scrum half, Bruce Colvin, Struan Hutchison and Craig Dodds, they're well on top of their opposite number in this game so far.
And then, of course, there was the second try, which was a sublime little kick ahead from Craig Dodds to Dwayne Patterson. I don't think Dwayne will get an easier one this season.
No, but it's really well constructed. They knew exactly what each other were doing, and Craig Dodds is a clever footballer, and as I said in the commentary, that the Edinburgh defence was coming up really hard and just dropped it onto the toe, and that the end over end, and it just rose perfectly into Dwayne Patterson's hand for the second try, and that really set the South on their way. And I
tell you who's been a real menace. Liam Scott been absolutely at the throat of Porteous at scrum half, giving him all sorts of problems. I bet Porteous is absolutely sick of him.
Yeah, we're just Ek again and I were talking off air about the balance of the back row. Number 8 ball player, ball carrier of Jay Linton. You've got the nuggety experience and just good rugby player of Bruce McNeil, and then you've got a Liam Scott who does all the hard work really, really well, puts his chops in and jackals all day long, and I would hate to play against that back row.
That's right. Well, of course, Sean Muir went over for a try, and then Bruce McNeil got one as well. 4 tries for the South in the first half. They currently lead by 29 points to 10. They're coming out on to the pitch now. The Edinburgh side still yet to appear, but the South have got a commanding lead, but they'll certainly want to get off the mark quickly in the second half. Let's rejoin our commentary team for this evening. It's Neil Hinnigan, Graeme Dodds, Robin Purdie and Dale Clancy.
The South have re-emerged from the changing rooms, and there's a couple of new faces as well that have made their way onto the pitch. Michael Badenhorst, where the number 19 has replaced Sean Fairbairn after an industrious first 40 minutes, and Donald Crawford looks like he's also replaced Andrew Mitchell in the line-up for the second half. It also looks like John Lascelles and also Cameron Lessels are on the park for Edinburgh, along with Chris Anderson too. So a couple of replacements in the front row. Perhaps the Edinburgh side noticing that they've need to shore up in the scrum. But we're just waiting on the referee to get second half underway. The South currently leading 29 points to 10, and the second 40 minutes are now firmly underway because Jamie Looms has just kicked downfield. It's evaded the waiting eyes and arms of the South, who are not able to gather that cleanly from the kick-off, perhaps in the only pocket of sun just in that area past the stand.
Yeah, it looked horrible. I think Jay Linton just lost it at the last minute, and it went over his hands and over his head, and spilled forward. So just really the start that Edinburgh would want to try and get them built into the second half, but it's perfect really kick for where that sun is, as you say. It's a 20 metre square there that it could have landed it in, and he certainly did that, and I think Jay looked up into it at the wrong time.
Pop into the scrum now, and I think that probably looks like it's going to be Cameron Lessels to pop the ball into this one, able to get it into a scrum which is relatively solid, and lays it on a platform for the replacement scrum half to distribute. It's been plucked off the floor by Canny, who does really well. He almost had to grab a handful of grass, it was that low as he managed to grab it. Simpson comes round the corner and carries forward, but is isolated, and the players just not able to recycle themselves from that scrum for Edinburgh. And the big back row just managed to walk down an alley that the South players were just loitering, ready to snaffle that ball.
You talk about the park and the way they've been playing, but they then take Sean Fairbairn off and replace him with Musselborough's Michael Badenhorst, who's an absolute weapon in attack regarding his ball carrying skills. And on a nice night like this, we might see a bit of that. But they're at that breakdown again. The South are just clinical. One mistake from Edinburgh, and the South are on it. Very alert. From the start of the second half again.
A player who perhaps has been highly praised and been one of the big turning points in Musselborough's season, certainly, in their quest for survival in the Premiership, something that they were able to achieve. And the Musselburgh players included in the South of Scotland squad, of which Badenhorst is one of them. At the tail of the line out, Liam Scott is found in the wrap round from Rennick, who looks to try and release Craig Dodds, who's running at an acute angle. He's got Wells to beat, but not able to get the fend and get him far enough away from him to break free from that challenge as Scott gets round the corner, able to try and gather. It's went to ground, but it's bounced back, and the referee has then signalled that the South just camped on the 22 of Edinburgh, have isolated themselves after a little mix-up in attack. So Edinburgh let off 3 minutes into the second half. They get a penalty, and they're able to kick downfield.
More great play by Craig Dodds though. First, the incisive break, made 20 metres or so, and that was after he'd another raking touch finder from the penalty. So yeah, a man absolutely on the top of his game tonight. But yeah, Edinburgh just weathering the storm a wee bit at the moment. Be interesting to see how things change with the subs that they've brought on. But again, I would suggest that the South certainly certainly on paper look like they've got the upper hand in the bench stakes.
It's amazing what sleepless nights and nappy changing can do for Craig Dodds' form. After his new arrival, he's revitalised and he's putting in some performance from the South. But Edinburgh, from the line out, are able to try and find Neil Armstrong, and they do find space this time for the centre. Coming around the corner, looping back in field, Campbell getting his hands on the ball and linking up well with John Lascelles, who gets himself into position to carry forward, and then he's stripped on the ground, so the penalty again going the way of Edinburgh. And it's been a good impact from those two front rows. Chris Anderson and John Lascelles offered himself up to carry ball forward. Yeah, they're both good players. Chris Anderson was at Birmingham for a while, and I remember him coming to help Herriot out when I was there as an emergency front row cover, and he was actually pressing Lodge at the time, and I thought this kid's got someone who's good. And since then he's been covered a bit in the Super 6 with Birmingham, I believe, and he's played just about every league game for Curry this year, so he's a good player, good loose head. Some strong replacements coming onto the pitch for Edinburgh as they make their way up towards the South 22. It's a line out, and it's Ryan Stewart, the starting hooker for Edinburgh. He tries to throw it with the tail, and again it's not accurate as Bruce McNeil just plucks it from the sky and charges forward. A couple of barrel rolls on the ground as he waits for the support to get there. It does, but the referee is bringing that back for a knock on, I believe, at the line out. But again, good sweeping up from Bruce McNeil, and I think the referee has awarded a knock on from... I think he was maybe done for an extra roll and then obviously no advantage. I think, that's my guess. Bruce taking an extra roll there, so it's been known. Time for a scrum now.
I think if Edinburgh want to get back in this game, Dale, they've really got to win their set piece. You know, they're getting a good position there in the South 22, and then just that 2 or 3 inches too high from the jumper, and you know, they can't get anything going if they're not going to win their set piece. So I think that's vital for them. It perhaps illustrates the lack of continuity from training as well. Maybe not going through their patterns and what they're used to doing. As the scrum drives forward from the South, not well protected, protesting arms out there from the South because they obliterated that scrum from Edinburgh, but just not benefiting from it as the ball was kicked forward. But eventually the referee awards the penalty to the South, and they can then look to start to kick clear, kick downfield and try and launch some attacks of their own. Yeah, I don't think the scrum's gotten any better for Edinburgh, even though I think the props that came on are good and loose, but they're still under a lot of pressure there, and the referee didn't actually give a penalty from the scrum. It was afterwards for the holding on, and I think in general there maybe wasn't an offence, but it was going back at a rate of knots, so that's maybe a sign of things to come. Yeah, it's perhaps the good play and the good aggressive play from the South perhaps forcing the referee's hand with that decision there.
Yeah, they've been aggressive in everything they've done, the South tonight, and that's not changed since they've come back out for half time. And again, another good touch finder from the penalty from Dodds, and they'll look to go from here again. Be good to see Badenhorst, you mentioned him before, up at close quarters.
McComb does well to pluck it from the sky. Colvin almost fed the replacement Lascelles there as he bulleted a ball to his fly half, and he was up like a shot and trying to gather the ball from the line out, but eventually the South do well, and Colvin finds some space in the backfield, and this could be a great kick if it bubbles off the field of play, but it's been well gathered there by Sim on that far side. He scampers forward and tries to eat up some ground, and they make some more hard-earned yards, but eventually they're asked to depart from the playing surface as the South escort them off the field of play. So again, good accurate kick in there from Bruce Colvin, whose earlier kick of not a similar nature, it was a different trajectory, but it was punished. That was great awareness, great pitch awareness there. What's good about the South there is you're 29-10 up, you could easily come out and go swashbuckling rugby and get it all wrong, but let's keep to doing the right things, and that's the right thing to do at this point. They made great territory. Place for there rather is forcing things. You know, the game isn't exactly won yet. You know, you think they need to get the next one just to make sure. So 19-point lead as McComb again is up at the line out, does well to gather, feeds Scott looks to try and tip the ball on to Colvin, and the South are now having to retreat, but they've still got possession as they're marched back over their 10-metre line as Fraser Rennick then burrows down and carries forward again. Sean Muir picks a little hole in defence and offloads to Bruce McNeil, who's got to hurdle his way over some Edinburgh players and is penalised for doing so.
that looks really harsh to me. There was a player already on the ground essentially in front of him. What else is he meant to do? It's either stand on him or loup him.
He's changed. The old Bruce McNeil would have just run over the top of him.
Well, and then you get penalised for that. What else is he meant to do there?
Damned if you do, damned if you don't for Bruce McNeil there. But the penalty goes the way of Edinburgh, and they kick towards the south, the 22. Ryan Stewart is quickly over there at the position, but he'll certainly have to try and find his target here if Edinburgh want to really push on.
Well, just what Graeme was saying before, that they've not had a lot of good ball, and they've got some good line-out operators, but they've not been hitting that. And it's vital that they start doing that if they want to get back into this.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens from this line-out. Anderson over to speak to Stewart, familiar voices in the line-out from their time at Curry in the Premiership this season. A little bit of movement at the tail. They go to the back and they're able to hit the target this time, and it's Ali McCallum, the try scorer, and then looking to work the blind side as they go against the grain and try and pick the holes in the gaps that the South are potentially leaving and neglecting on that short side. Not coming this time, and the referee is going to come back for a scrum, and just neither side really able to get any continuity in the second half. That is about 9 minutes in. It's still the South 29, Edinburgh 10, but not really got going in the second 40 minutes.
No, not at all. It's just a pretty scrappy start to the second half, and I think South just need to get the game by the scruff of the neck a little bit. A couple of substitutions there at half time, just getting these guys bedded in, and Sean Muir will look to have a real go here, defending this scrum, and hopefully get the ball back and then build the territory like they were doing at the second half of that first half. And I think it's imperative that South do score next. If Edinburgh do score in the next 5 or 6 minutes, it really is game on.
Scrum steady for the visitors as they present the ball back for replacement scrum half Lessels, and then he tries to bring Wells off his wing, and he charges forwards to the South's defensive line and tries to breenge his way forward as Simpson gets round the corner again and runs that lateral line looking to dislodge the defence, as Rudy Campbell now is ragdolled by Badenhorst, who manages just to grab the navy shirt of the Edinburgh number 8 and scrag him to ground as McCallum carries forward now, playing at a little bit more tempo as Looms picks the gap, offloads to Simpson. Simpson's got Davis, and Davis has been well defended there, but eventually gets his way over the line, and that's some cute play from Edinburgh, able to just pick the hole which Looms managed to manipulate, and then good communication from the back row forwards to link up as well.
Yeah, good play. I mean, the actual handling ability was really good, and under pressure as well. Like, the South wasn't really missed tackles, it was just the running lines, and they got through. And again, Ali McCallum had a good part to play in that. He had 2 big carries early on in the piece, and then they managed to move the ball into space. And great finish by Davies, because he had 2 men on him there and he still managed to get over the line. But this has brought the game back to life a little bit, and certainly something the South didn't need anyways.
Yeah, 29 points to 15 now. The South are leading. A good time to score for Edinburgh, and a good time for their captain Davies to get his name on the score sheet and try and charge his troops forward. The South anticipating the attack well, but just not able to show the strength to stop the try being scored, as Looms now lines up a conversion attempt, right-footed kicker, nudges it forward, and the assistant referees watch that sail over the uprights. So it's now the South 29, Edinburgh 17.
Good play by Looms in there, the standoff. He created the opportunity, nice little dart and then offload, and he's in a lot of positive column inches this season. Jamie Looms maybe a wee bit quiet in the first half, but he showed what he was all about there, and it looks for the South like Liam Scott is coming off, but you'd imagine it'll be no mean replacement in Callum Rennick. Yeah,
Callum Rennick, who had a really good cup final as well, a really good season. He's on wearing the number 16 jersey as Wells from the kick-off just finds Rennick, whose first task in this game is to wrap his arms round the ankles of the powerful Edinburgh Accies winger. Edinburgh, looking to make their way now out of the 22, but the pressure from the South comes on, and Nicky Little is able to grab it. There's been a knock-on in there from Edinburgh, but again good pressure from the restart from the South, able to force that error from Edinburgh, and they can try and reply straight away from that try they've just seen from Davies.
Yeah, again, Dale, just you look at I've seen that. Yeah, again, as mentioned before, Edinburgh would be better just getting that set up and down the park. They've done the hard work to get back at the game. Another coach killer for them. They've let the South straight back into this now, a great attacking opportunity. And sometimes it's just a case of these, when you're disjointed, is it worth trying to overplay? I'm maybe being Mr. Negative, but I just think that sometimes you've got to settle down and get yourself in the right positions of the park to play from.
Colvin on the 22 of Edinburgh popping the ball into the scrum, and the South again showing that real robust and solid platform at the scrum as it creeps forward, and Jay Linton is having to show his footballing skills at the tail of that scrum. The referee has got no other decision than to award the penalty to the South, but the performance from the forwards up front yet again is laying a good platform for the South, even though for this first 10 minutes of the second half they've barely really been in the game.
They've not really struck a blow yet in this second half, Dale, and it's probably the time to do it now. 30 minutes into the second half, kick for Dodds to go into the corner here and really put their foot down again. Let's get this next score and let's pull away for this Edinburgh Park, because the longer they're in the game, the longer they'll feel like they've got a sniff.
Craig Dodds able to nudge that kick just 5 metres shy of the Edinburgh line, and the South players slowly amble towards the line out, fully aware of what they're going to be doing because they're hitting Badenhorst, and he brings it down. The red and white shirts cluster, and then Callum Rennick splinters off the side because that maul was not cohesive, and then the second wave comes round as Bruce McNeil charges forward and is wrapped up by Edinburgh defenders. Sean Muir gets round the corner looking for his second try of this evening, but he's been held up over the line. A great powerful carry yet again, which allowed the defenders just to take him back over the whitewash, but just caught in the wrong position there, so it's going to be a goal line dropout for Edinburgh.
Another great carry. They did well in the end, Edinburgh defence, to hold him up, but it was almost too easy for the South to breach their way through what was sort of 8-9 metres and a couple of carries towards the line. But yeah, chance for Edinburgh to get a wee bit of respite here.
Looms kicks downfield. The bouncing ball has been watched carefully by Dodds, who's got loads of time to then eat up the ground as he scampers back into the 22. That flat pass to McKean. McKean has been wrapped up there by Ian Sim, who does well just to fly across, and Badenhorst now carries forward again, getting some big shoulders in there as Greg Canny looks to get Armstrong looks to get his arms in there. Canny in there too, but the two centres and also a couple of players in the backs as well. I think that's Charlie Brett, just guilty of infringing the offside line. So again, the South will look to visit the Edinburgh 22 on another occasion and try and build some more persistent pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting into these areas, Dale, and just not quite finishing it off. Pretty effective that last set of play. 4 or 5 phases, and unfortunately for the South, Sean Muir got held up over the line. It was a goal line dropout, but they're doing all the basics well. So hopefully it's only a matter of time, and hopefully it's right now.
Rennick, starting hooker for the South, hits McComb at the front, and he brings it down again. A lightweight second row, but great to lift, and he does well to gather the ball, and he's in the nucleus of this maul as it starts to drive forward. The desperate arms flailing in there from Edinburgh as it starts to encroach on that 5 metre line. It's nudging forward. Fraser Rennick needing protected at the tail. He does well, and it's going forward closer and closer, and eventually the hooker there, Fraser Rennick, flops over the line, and the South reply straight away, and that's straight off the training ground, that one.
Yeah, good patience there from Fraser Rennick. There's a couple of times where he could have splintered off that left-hand side. It opened up, he just tucked himself back in, protected himself with his mates, and that's what a great time to make a front row, all 3 front row substitutions for the South, and and Fraser Rennick's his last foray was a 5-pointer.
Luke Petty, Matty Carrier, and also Craig Owenson coming in to the field of play. They don't look like South shots that Matty's got on, but they're shots, they're white shots, so we'll let them away with it. That's a conversion attempt here. The South currently leading 34 points to 17, and double the advantage of what Edinburgh have been able to conjure up so far. We've played 17 minutes in this second half. It's almost a quarter of the game left, and the South bring the changes in the front row. But one of the steadier members of the team, Craig Dodds, has a chance to add the extras, and that is as sweet as you like from that right boot of his. Adds the 2 points, and it's now the South who are leading 36 points to 17.
Yeah, that's what they needed. A bit more composure that time from the line out. Very nicely done. And Fraser Rennick, I probably was always going to get one tonight the way the forwards were playing, and he took it well, and it was just really efficient from the South. They'd learned the lesson the last time, just a little bit lack of composure, but that's just settled them back down again and kept Edinburgh at arm's length. Edinburgh
just waiting to make some replacements. It looks like Rory Campbell is going to be withdrawn, or move position perhaps. No, he's definitely been withdrawn as Looms gets play back underway. It's on, being plucked for the sky for Davies, who managed to out-jump Carrier. And just going short on this occasion is Looms now, who's got the ball in hands, finds Armstrong. Armstrong's got Brett, he looks to go back in field, but being wrapped up well again by Ronan McKean, the big tall pacey winger, able to show his robustness in defence as well, as Carson offers himself up for a carry forward as well. A player who's not played too much in the Premiership this season, but finds himself in Edinburgh colours. The ball squirms out of the ruck, but it's had to be gathered by Lessels, and now Brett, who's going down the short side, is wrapped up by Donald Crawford, who was a replacement at half time for the South. The ball then splinters out of the ruck yet again. It was gathered by Jay Linton, who probably thought he had open prairie to run into it, but it's going to be patient from the South because it's going to slow down. They'll be able to kick downfield and try and maintain possession and see this game out.
Great play by Bruce McNeil there, in over the ball like a limpet. That's now, I think by my count, the 10th penalty that Edinburgh have coughed up in this game so far to the South's 5. So great discipline by the South actually for a team that's been put together to be nearly 60 minutes in and only conceded 5 penalties, but yeah, looking good value for this lead at the moment, the South.
Kick downfield from Dodds, right footed. It's an acute angle, and as it exits the field of play, there was an expletive that perhaps came out of the mouth of Greg Canny, which illustrates that he's perhaps not enjoying his evening so far. And he's certainly looking like a dejected figure as he goes across and speaks to Ian Sim, and another couple of replacements are being readied, which will be interesting ones at that. Gareth Welsh at scrum half, looks like he's going to replace Bruce Colvin, and Frankie Robson, wearing number 23, is coming onto the field of play, and he's going to be replacing Kirk Ford, which will see Craig Dodds go back to full back. Frankie Robson at inside centre, partner in Donald Crawford at 13. Throw into the line out, Carrier hits the tail, and Owenson's there. He's able to gather. It certainly looked prescripted anyway, because it found the target just out stretching the jumpers, as Welsh wants a bit of protection at that ruck to box kick downfield and give Badenhorst something to chase, and it's a bit of a mismatch as he tries to claw at the ball in the sky, but has been well gathered by Cameron Lessels. The penalty again going the way of the South, who the incessant pressure from the home side is just resulting in penalties from the visitors.
Yeah, really good kick there from Gareth Welsh. Straight first job as he come on as a substitution, and for Bruce Colvin, who had a really good game as well at 9, and Gareth Welsh kept that going. Great kick, and we talked about it in the first half. Maybe the competitiveness of that kick wasn't the best, and that's when Edinburgh got their early score. But that was certainly rectified there with the South, straight on top of that ball. And I think that's as Robin said. We're well into double figures for Edinburgh penalties, and for the South only to concede 5 at this stage. It's superb discipline.
Dodds downfield and kicks into the 22 again as the South look to build on this 36 points to 17 lead. We've played 21 minutes in the second half, and the South look to go quick at that line out. The referee, Callum Lazenby, just blasted his whistle to tell Matty Carrier to hod his horses. He then is eventually allowed to float it into the line out, but it's been flat back by Edinburgh, and Carson sweeps up at the tail. That line out certainly not going to plan for the home side, as Edinburgh will have to go through the usual repertoires to get out of their own danger area. They put the box kick up into the sky as Dodds gathers underneath. He's been hit by Ryan Stewart with a textbook tackle by the visiting hooker. Welsh sizes up his options left and right and finds Rennick, who then burrows his way forward. That's Callum Rennick, the replacement in the back row. Then Petty, he charges forward and protects the ball, and then flops to the ground and presents it back for Welsh to find Hutchison, who gets it through the hands to Owenson, who offloads to Linton on the 5 metre line. Good interlinking play again from the South as Welsh burrows into that ruck there. Ryan Stewart quickly off his defensive line there as Badenhorst goes in to clear the covering players there for Edinburgh. Hutchison close to the line finds McNeil, who barrels forward and manages just to go over the top of the first wanting challenger in Ali Johnson. Hutchison now, the Melrose player of the season, finds Dodds out the back, and it's now a loose ball. Wells has got space to run into, but the referee is going to bring that back for a penalty for offside from the visitors there. And it's patient, but it's great to see the South still wanting to score tries with 17 minutes to go.
Indeed, and there's life left in this game yet, and another couple of tries are certainly not beyond the realms of possibility. You'd imagine Craig Dodds is going to put this to about 5 metres from the line, and they'll look to go again from here, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the likes of Matty Carrier emerge from the bottom of a pile of bodies here.
Be a big pile. Kick to the corner for Craig Dodds now. Chance to get this as close as possible to that 5 metre line. And this will give Matty Carrier the platform to throw into many an option in that line out, the likes of Badenhorst and McComb. And they hit Badenhorst, and it's been flat back again by Edinburgh, perhaps wise to the fact that he's their number one option in that line out. So again, in an attractive attacking position, the South not able to capitalise on their accuracy. They keep continuing to pile the pressure on the visitors, and the penalty is going the way of Edinburgh. And a little bit slack there from the South, and you feel that Edinburgh, for a little bit of the play, as Looms tries to kick downfield, is being kept in by Welsh, and then a little bit of volleyball between McKean and Welsh as they try and keep the ball in, but there's a lack of urgency now from Edinburgh.
There is a lack of urgency, and it's disappointing from a South point of view. That's twice now they've been 5 yards out with a chance to strike, and the set piece hasn't gone right. The line out's been all credit to Edinburgh. They've chucked the defensive pods in the air and won them both, but disappointing from a South point of view, set piece wise.
Hit the target in the line out. It's the first try scorer McCallum who gets it, and then the charge forward there from Gregor Nelson in the Curry back row. And the replacements now starting to show their worth for the visitors as Armstrong looks to break free. A couple of Edinburgh replacements again linking up well to carry forward, working that blind side, trying to manipulate proceedings over there. They spot a little gap, but great defence there from Carrier, who's able to wrap up Charlie Brett. Carson acting as the pivot, finds Lessels and finds Looms, and then it's been scooped up by Canny off the floor yet again. He's clattered by Crawford, and a couple of South players over the ball there as the carry forward from Johnson. Probably doesn't go as planned for one of the City Sides players. The counter ruck coming on from the South, and a couple of mitts in there in the ruck that the referee perhaps didn't like, and Neil Hinnigan.
Yeah, Graeme was maybe thinking it was maybe slightly harsh, and it did look that way, but right at the last minute he come off his feet there, and it was right in front of the referee. It's one of those ones that makes it easy for the ref. It was unlucky because all the hard work had been done to counter ruck, and he'd just come off his feet at the last minute. Bit unlucky.
Yeah, Callum Rennick did all the hard work at the start, stayed on his feet, did all the right things, and then as you say, right in front of the ref, and it was that little snippet that was
soft,
really over.
Soft
it was disappointing, and you look where we were sort of 90 seconds ago in that corner, and the line out went away, and we're across in the opposite corner now, and Edinburgh in the attack.
One thing about Edinburgh, just struggling to come round the corner now. They're not working hard enough. You can just use saying the intensity's dropped, and they need to get back to that if they're going to stay in this game.
Stuart to throw into the line out. He looks to go to the tail, and he finds another ex-Peebles hooker in Carrier, who makes it a good 20 yards. He carries forward and does well to eat up the ground, and it's not going well for ex-Peebles hookers at the moment, but it's certainly going well for Craig Dodds because he's found some space downfield. He's put it on the toe for likes of McKean and Crawford to try and chase, but Wells now breaks free from the first challenge, and now he's got Badenhorst in front of him. He dummies, he goes it alone. He had Sim there for support. He looks to go over Dodds, who does well to cowp him almost into touch. Eventually the assistant referee's flags go into the air. Great counter-attack in rugby from the Edinburgh winger, but great initiative and imagination from Craig Dodds to put that on the toe to give his winger something to chase.
And it looked like Edinburgh were going to be hemmed in the corner there, but the South let the big winger out of there. You got a wee bit of an easier accident than you would have thought, I would imagine, and outrageous dummy sold there to, I think it was big Badenhorst, and he's going to have to pay to get back in, I think.
That was a belter, wasn't it?
Especially when yeah, I agree with that one. But yeah, it was good play by Wells to get out of there. He's saved Edinburgh probably from being stuck on their own line.
McComb gathers from the line out. Now Carrier's able to find his target, and now he's got the ball well protected at the tail of that maul. He's going to have to break free, but the support's going to have to be quick to get there, but not if he offloads off the deck like that and finds a charge on Welsh as McNeil now picks from the ruck the carry forward from the South, and Linton's there in support as Welsh gets the ball in his hands, and Badenhorst acts as the pivot to Hutchison. He's got Callum Reddick who's looking to try and get the offload in. It just went into the hands of an Edinburgh player but knocked forward, And certainly the shackles are now free for the South. They are looking to try and link up at any given opportunity to try and stretch this pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. They're trying to play, and that all came from a really good chop tackle from Craig Dodds. I think he's been outstanding back on the field this evening, certainly, and he obviously feels very at home in this Netherdale Park, and ever trusty, ever present Heppy bringing the tea on for him. It just feels like he's at home.
I was going to mention that before, actually, when I seen Heppy come on in the first half. Does it get written into a contract here that even when it's no gala, it has to be Heppy?
It has to be Heppy when your goal kicker is Craig Dodds, anyway, that's for sure. And what a stalwart of Gala Rugby Club.
I was going to say, great to see him involved.
You always have great patter with him wherever he is, supporting his home tune and his home club, and it's great to see him involved tonight.
And it's another great kick downfield from Craig Dodds, because he's nudged that from round about the halfway line and deep inside the Edinburgh 22 again. And yes, the scoreboard is going the way of the South, but in terms of territory, we've been craning our necks towards the left-hand side for the majority of this game as Carrier finds Linton at the tail. He drops it into the clutches of McNeil, who finds Rennick, who's herring onto the ball and looking to pluck a hole in the defence, as Welsh has to dig about at the ruck now and keep the momentum in this passage of play going. And Hutchison links up well. McKean loitering off his wing, just tips it on the shoulder and looks to go forward and take his momentum through the contact from Edinburgh. Welsh dummies and goes and runs into a little bit of trouble, but is well protected by his teammates in the red and white hoops as Owenson has to protect the ball at the tail. The counter ruck coming on from Edinburgh, but a few hands in there yet again as you look to try and now stifle this move, as the penalty is definitely going to go the way of the South. Certainly a couple of occasions there as Bruce McNeil looks to go quickly, a little bit of footwork, a pirouette, a twist over the line. He looks to try and stretch his arm over and get the ball down, but the South run round the corner and they do get the score. And we're just going to have to wait to see who emerges from the pile of bodies, and it looks like Luke Petty is the player to get his name on the score sheet, and that was after great vision from Bruce McNeil.
I'm glad he never scored the second there, Dale. I'd never had him off the phone tomorrow tell me, do you know who scored 2 tries for the South? And I was like, yeah, Bruce, that's right. But great play by Bruce just to get them there up towards the line, and Luke Petty there just gets the last few inches to get over the line, and the South really needed to get another one for all the pressure they've had in territory, and it was really coming, but they had to get it finished off there, and they did. So yeah, I think the scoreboard probably reflects the match for me at this point.
That's when you know you're good friends, when you don't want to see them do well, or at least you want to see them do well but not too well.
I don't want to see them score another one, because it's a long day tomorrow to hear all about them, especially when they're a combined distance of about 3 yards. So
it's now Dodds to try and add the extras. The South 41 points to 17 up, and with the right lick of the boot, it means it's 43 points to 17 now. 60 points scored, 43 of which have went the way of the home side, and it's certainly a commandable lead that the South have built up.
Yeah, another converted try, and Graeme Dodds was bang on the money, as mentioned at half time. But a word in there for Callum Rennick. We've seen a lot of him over the last couple of months. His running lines and the pace that he hits the ball are really quite something. He is a wonderful player. He's
a cracking player. I think he's getting better and better.
Yeah.
His play is back underway as Looms gets the restart. It goes deeper, a little bit of communication there between Linton and McNeil, who are an intimidating back row partnership, but the ball's been sloppily knocked on deep inside the South 22, which has resulted in an Edinburgh scrum and a chance for Edinburgh to try and counter straight away.
I was just going to say, it's turned a little bit scrappy, and obviously both teams making quite a few substitutions, but that was 2 lads that have been on right since the start, Bruce McNeil and Jay Linton, so commentators curse. But it has got a little bit scrappy over the last 15-20 minutes, and it's almost like South are trying to play, but they're almost trying to play too much, and just a little bit disappointing. The standard of the first half, especially the second half of that first half of the 20 minutes, was really, really good and really crisp, sharp play from the South, and it's fallen a little bit flat this second half. We just change of personnel and stuff, but again, they're still working away.
The power from the scrum coming on there from the South, and Welsh has to pounce on that ball to try and get it back on the South side, and Patterson now acting as an auxiliary scrum half, feeds Petty, the most recent try scorer in this game, which has helped the South into a 43 points to 17 advantage with 8 minutes to play here at Netherdale on Tuesday night. Welsh finds Hutchison in the pocket, and again he just gets right underneath that and stabs it high into the air. The bouncing ball has went into the clutches of Welsh, who launches it into the hands of Brett. He sizes up his options, and I think he's going to feed it back into Welsh, but opts to go alone, and has been swarmed there by Frankie Robson. And coming around the corner again, a few players, and Heber is one of them. He gathers, sets the ball up there for Lessels to find a towering second row, and Sword, who carries again. Not making a lot of inroads there, as bouncing back in field again is Brett, who twists out the contact, offloads off the deck as well to Ian Sim, who's charging into the attacking line. The penalty is the advantage is certainly going the way of Edinburgh, but there's going to be a little bit of time off because it looks like there's an injured personnel on the field of play. Nicky Little, who's currently lying on the ground, just got a couple of physios round about him, just making sure that he's being looked after on the pitch. It gives both teams to a little bit of time to probably decant what's happened in the last 33 minutes of this game. Edinburgh certainly have got a lot to do to have any hopes of doing anything in this game. You would think that the margin of the deficit that they currently face is a bit too much, but it's been a solid performance from the South, indifferent in parts, but it's going to be with a team that are made up of players from different clubs.
I think you've got to give all credit to the South and the way they've played. I mean, they've tried to play wide now. They're trying to get into that mode where they could score a couple of really tidy tries that would put a bit of gloss on the game, but sometimes that just doesn't happen when it gets scrappy. There's substitutions, but when the South stick to the structure and the power game, they've got far too much for the Edinburgh side, and that's I've said it from the start, and when they keep doing that, I think they're almost getting it too easy that they're not having to go to the backs to finish off. They're getting to the line and getting there, and it's they're just churning it over every time. And I mean, most of the tries have been scored through the forwards, from close range, but it's just a power game.
It's Owenson, I think, is the player injured, because Nicky Little looks in fine form as he's galloping onto the field. But yeah, it's true what you say, that the 6 tries that the South have scored, 5 of them have come from forward.
Yeah,
so it's a trademark, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, their set piece is so strong. I mean, their line wasn't always going to function completely, but given the short time they've had together, scrum's a lot easier, but to get that togetherness. But their set piece even function has been a lot better as Edinburgh, not just power.
It looks like Craig Owenson of Musselburgh is taking a sore one on his left shoulder by the looks of things as he's being taken off the field of play. It means Nicky Little has to return back to the paddock to continue this game. Not a bad replacement to bring back on as Edinburgh kick down into the 22, and they look to try and throw in now through Danny Dineen. The Heriots hooker got a chance here to hit his target at the line out inside an attractive area. As he does, he manages to find McCallum. The ball is brought down, and Dineen is then lurking at the back, waiting for the ball to filter its way through so he can crane his neck and see what his options are in front of him. He burrows it down in between the bodies yet again as it drives forward, and the South are doing well to rotate this maul and crane it to the side, trying to make it as awkward as possible for the visitors to get that pill back. Davies now wrestling and fighting for that ball to bring it back on his side, but he's been well gathered there by the likes of McNeil and Linton, who are in there fighting for a South cause. The ball then is knocked on at the ruck. The assistant referee, they have a decision to make here, or
South boot in there.
Oh, but they've got away with it because the knock on has went the way of the home side, so it's going to be a put into the scrum for the South, and that's out your copybook, Dodds, isn't it?
Yeah, clever play there for the lad. I don't know who it was. Probably Bruce McNeil.
Probably McNeil,
but clever play there when the referee's kind of out the way, and a little stray lace there from somebody forcing a little knock on from the Edinburgh scrum half. But what I've liked about the South is they've stuck to the structure. They've all known, they've obviously had a clear, and obviously well coached by Matty, and a clear game plan of how they want to play, and there's not been any indecision. There's not been any indecision at all. They know exactly what they're doing, whether it's just carrying hard or it's coming out the back. And the set piece hasn't been great in the second half, but they've had a clear structure, and that's really positive.
Welsh puts into a scrum that is twisting and turning. The referee is going to bring that back, but I echo those thoughts. It's obviously a difficult task to try and get players from different clubs to sing off the same hymn sheet, but Matty Douglas and Ian Chisholm, Bert Grigg and Andy Clark have certainly done a great job against their counterparts of Bob McKillop, Alex Haggart, Mark Cairns and Ian Bertisman as well. So the South certainly hold all the cards as we approach the final stages of this game. 43 points to 17 they currently lead, and they've got 3 minutes or so left of the proceedings. Pop into the scrum now, falls away of Gareth Welsh, who rolls it in again to a sturdy platform up front for the South, and Hutchison now gathers and feeds Crawford. The first time we've really seen him with the ball in hand, and he feeds Dodds, who's coming out of the line from full back to offer his services as well. So looks to spread the pitch, and Crawford looks to launch it to McKean, who he thought was perhaps loitering on the wing. And that's sometimes when you bring different players in, that you revert back to type, and that almost for me looked like a Melrose play to get the ball really, really wide, and Hoyt like to come in, field a little bit miscommunication.
Exactly that, just a little bit of lack of communication there, and as you said, Donald thought his winger was out wide, and Ronan came in on that short ball, and unfortunately didn't go to hand. But these things will happen, and as long as they don't concede from this last 2 or 3 minutes, that'll be the important thing from a South point of view.
Line out at the front is gathered, protected, but driven back by the South, and Edinburgh reform it, and they're able to then crane it forward and creep in towards South territory again. But the red and white shirts seem to just engulf the Edinburgh players, who are trying with all their might to get this ball back on their side. Nelson digging in now, Davies having to recycle himself round and launch his shoulders in to get some sort of momentum in this, as the South players stand tall and try and keep the ball carrier upright in attack, and the referee is watching it intently as he spots that ball is certainly not coming back on an Edinburgh side, and the scrum is given the way of the South.
Great defence by the South, the old choke tackle, hold the man up, and Bruce McNeill loved that. A little bit of words exchanged after that, as is his wont.
39th minute of the second half, and Bruce McNeil still dishing out. But that's the character of the man. That's what he's about. And any youngsters that are playing in there will have gotten something out of it. Not only don't want to listen to his bad patter, but when he's on the pitch, he's experienced, and he's been at the forefront of a lot of things they've done up front. He's been very good.
Definitely.
He has been excellent up front, as have a lot of other players in the South side that have laid the foundations for a sizable victory over Edinburgh on a Tuesday night here at Netherdale. Hopefully a famous night, and the resurgence of the Inter-District Championship can start to take some momentum and go forward. If it goes forward like the rate of the South scrum, it would be doing well as well, because they've just won the penalty from that, and they can then try and nudge this ball downfield a little bit more. And hopefully they'll be looking to try and maybe get that 50 mark before the game's out.
Yeah, hopefully. Get the build up to this last sort of 90 seconds, and hopefully get the 7 point, and they'll get into the magic 50. But you look at the front row that started, and then the strength of the front row that came on. It's never really changed the scrum. It's gone the South way both halves, and it's great when you can call upon guys like that to come off the bench and just keep the strength up.
There's another sizable kick downfield from Craig Dodds, and he's managed to get it down, and Brett was looking to try and keep it on the field of play, and he managed just to flap it back in the South direction. So it was a valiant effort from the Edinburgh fullback, but not accurate, and it means that Carrier now, gala shorts and all, is able to throw back into the line out. He's looking to find his target. Badenhorst jumps out, and then Linton rises and comes down to ground and then feeds McNeil. McNeil's got Welsh out the back door, who then feeds Frankie Robson, who is anchoring onto the ball. Rennick now a standing start, and then it accelerates through as Struan Hutchison now is one-on-one with the fullback, and he's scythed down, but the support arrives for the South, and they're looking for the final try, and it's Matty Carrier who charges forward and looks to barrow his way over the line, but he does well to present back. A couple of numbers up here as Crawford floats the ball across to Ronan McKean, and he's got the easiest of final scores for the South here in the left hand corner here at Netherdale. And it means that the South take a 48-17 lead against Edinburgh and book their place in the final against either Glasgow or Caledonia on the 21st of May. Kick to come, but it's certainly the cherry on top of what has been a very scrumptious cake here at Netherdale.
Yeah, superb brains there from Callum Rennick. We talked about it, Robin talked about it earlier on in the second half, and he's so powerful. He just looks like he's really motoring, and to get that depth that'll offload into Struan Hutchison on his shoulder, just great play for Callum Rennick, and Struan Hutchison really set that try up there for eventually McKean in the corner.
And all credit to Don Crawford and McKean there, because that little miscommunication maybe 2 or 3 minutes ago, but they worked it out, got back in harmony, and it was a wonderful, long, sumptuous pass by Crawford. And yet McKean just pretty much always scores. If there's a big game, McKean will score.
Bruce McNeil involved in it again, but I've never seen Bruce pass the ball as much. It's a new thing. It must be.
He's getting paid per pass.
Well, it must be.
Conversion attempt from the touchline here. Stand side at Netherdale. Craig Dodds, who's had a A brilliant game from the boot as well. You'll hear a big roar if this one goes in between the Kinlan. Right-footed kick, and it looks accurate, it looks lovely, and it's sailing through the uprights there for the South, and that caps a brilliant display for the South of Scotland. And that means the final score here at Netherdale is a sizeable 50 points to 17. There have been tries galore here in the resurgence of the Inter-District Championship as both sides congratulate each other and shake hands at the end of what has been a great evening's rugby. But tries from Patterson, Muir, Rennick, McNeil, Linton, Petty, and the final one there from Ronan McKean. Reply to scores from McCallum and Davies, the two solo efforts from Edinburgh. And it's been a big welcome back for the South, but it's certainly a great foot to launch into the final to hopefully claim the Inter-District Championship. But it finishes here at Netherdale. It's a South 50, Edinburgh 17.
This is Borders Rugby Radio.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing coffee, a glass of wine and a light bite in our courtyard bar, or an overnight stay in one of our comfortable rooms, you're always assured a warm and friendly welcome at the Queen's Head Hotel, Kelso. Our 18th century inn is the perfect location to relax and unwind, and an ideal base from where to explore the stunning Borders countryside. Pop in and see for yourself. You'll be glad you did. The Queen's Head Hotel in Bridge Street, Kelso. Find out more at queensheadhotelkelso.com.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
Netherdale on a Tuesday night, a nice sunny night as well, and well, that's some scoreline, isn't it? The South of Scotland opening up their account after 6 years, 50 points to Edinburgh 17, 7 tries in all spread out amongst Dwayne Patterson and Ronan McKean, Sean Muir, Fraser Rennick, Bruce McNeil, Jay Linton and Luke Petty, and an immaculate performance from Craig Dodds with the boot, kicking 5 conversions and a penalty, just missing the first one right out on the touchline, but a great performance for him, and certainly he earned his place in the starting lineup for today. So let's see if we can dissect that before we get a couple of members of the teams up here for a little chat. And Robin, pretty convincing. You said you were a bit surprised when you saw the last result between these two teams hitting 60. Well, they've hit 50 today.
Yeah, as predicted by the man at my right, but not wonderful performance by the South. Just so many different, not just the scoreline, the forward dominance. 8 penalties, single-figure penalties. The subs all made an impact. Like I say, supreme forward dominance, and as good a kicking performance as I've seen by an individual from the tee and from hand. That I can't remember the last time. It certainly wasn't this season anyway. All credit to Craig Dodds. Might have been a couple of raised eyebrows. He normally plays 10. He's a very accomplished 10, but he's in here at centre, and masterstroke by the whether it's Matty, whether it's the selection committee, absolute masterstroke, because he was immaculate tonight.
It was going to be interesting to find out who was actually going to be taking the kicks today, because you've got Struan Hutchison, Kirk Ford as well. Yeah. So they were always going to get some points. Dwayne Patterson as well, of course, and Neil Hinnigan on the far side over there. It was a great game for Craig Dodds. Set piece though was important for both sides, and certainly South more composed this evening.
Yeah, they were, and I mean the power up front we spoke about a lot tonight, but it really was very dominant, and not just in the set piece around the park. The ball carrying was really good. They were very efficient. I mean, there was very little errors. I mean, the handling errors must be really low from the south of Scotland, given that they've only been together for 4 sessions. Edinburgh can obviously use that excuse, and the south could have as well had they made errors, but they were very, very efficient and didn't make a lot of errors, and the continuity that they got at times was really, really good. We didn't see their backline in full flight, but if you're going to play guys like Craig Dodds, it's very smart, as you say. Hutchison, even Patterson out in the wing, they've all got a kicking game. Kirkford, you've got a big pack like that. Why not give them a rocket launcher or a boot to put them in the right places? I mean, Craig Dodds is kicking it from his own half up into the 22. The forwards are loving life, and that's what's coming to. It all came together really well. They didn't really need to play expansive rugby. Yes, it's lovely in the eye, but we've got a couple of those tries. But overall, if you're going to win a game comfortably and you can do it that way, you've got to play to your strengths. And I'm delighted to see that South are willing to do that rather than just go out to appease certain certain ways that people maybe like to watch, but it was still a great game of rugby to watch. At times there were some great tries, and Edinburgh popped in with a couple of good tries as well. So overall, I mean, they must be delighted with their night's work.
Well, we'll go round all four of us at the moment. If there was going to be an official man of the match, which there isn't today, but let's do an unofficial one. My vote goes to Craig Dodds. What about you?
Can't argue with that.
No, I agree. Craig Dodds was the best player in the field, yeah.
Neil? Oh, look.
I like the way the forwards played, and I think that's why some out there maybe deserves it, but there was no one really. They played well as a unit rather as an individual, so I think on that basis, and given the amount of points he's put over today, I think you've got to give it to Craig Dodds.
So it was a touch and go there whether we were going to get 4 in a row, but we got there in the end for Craig. But we spoke to Bob McKillop earlier. He said that, look, it's not going to be a 6-3 today. He was absolutely right. 67 points in all, 50 of them going to the South. It was always going to be like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And both teams were definitely here to play, but I think the South, they weren't treating it like a Barbarians game. They came with a structure. They're obviously well coached to do that structure, and they stuck to it. And it could have been a few more on another night when it got a bit slicker and maybe a little bit more possession. It maybe would have been, but South pretty dominant, very dominant up front. And I think they'll be happy with the way things went. There are obviously little things that will need ironed out before a week on Sunday, but that'll come, and they'll give Glasgow or Cali a good crack to win this championship, because at the end of the day it's championship rugby.
Yeah. A lot of people from this area won't know of Michael Badenhorst until today, and some of the eyebrows went up obviously to see a Musselburgh player on there, because this is the first time Musselburgh had been involved in the South, and he certainly stood up when he eventually came on the pitch.
Yeah, I think he was listed in the starting lineup anyway, and I believe he was late in arriving, which I'm sure was through no fault of his own. But yeah, one of the guys mentioned earlier on, it was no coincidence that Musselburgh's Houdini act, let's call it what it was, started when he turned up basically. And if anybody down here didn't know who he was, or wasn't aware of him, then he certainly showed a few people what he's all about tonight. Good player and a good acquisition to the South, along with other Musselburgh players. They are a good addition.
Very sharp, isn't he? We saw Ali McCallum, also a second row, with plenty of pace, and we've seen this with Keith Melbourne as well for Kelso throughout the season as well. I mean, it seems to me these days, these big second rows, you have to offer a bit more, and they are.
You do, yeah. I mean, they're athletes. They're athletes now with pace, and prime example of that is Keith Melbourne down at Kelso. I've been really impressed with him over the last 2 seasons, and probably pretty unlucky to miss out on this squad tonight, to be perfectly honest, in my humble opinion anyway. But I think the modern day second row is very much a big back row forward that's got that athleticism that can do most things that your number 8 and your other flankers can do as well. So really impressed by all the second rows today. Actually, Macomb, obviously line out specialist, a little bit lighter than the other guys in the field, but had a very impressive game tonight as well. And
Neil, we can't forget the fact that a lot of the Hoyt team from Saturday were here, and that must have taken a lot out of them on Saturday, and to come here just 3 days later and put in a shift, some of them going all the distance.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really good. Athleticism from the Hoyt players, and I think I think it was really good for them to get comfortable, just to allow them to see through the game without having to overexert themselves all the time. I mean, the pack was dominant, but full credit to the Hoyt guys for that. I mean, that was a big shift on Saturday in the rain and the soft, and then obviously they would have their celebrations Saturday, Sunday, and then they've had to turn their attentions to this. But if anything, that shows you how professional the Hoyt players are. Yeah, they would enjoy their time on the celebrating, but they're able to take this serious. That they proved that tonight, and they didn't let anyone down out there. That's for sure. That they meant it tonight, and good on them.
I won't ask Robin this one, because this involves the dark arts of the front row and the second row and the back row as well. So Graeme probably, Neil, yes, you can both answer this question, I suppose. The pack tonight, there were moments where they really did get on top. There were other moments where Heriots actually were holding quite firm, but on balance I think the South pack definitely dominated.
They definitely did. I think we talked early doors about that Hoyk front row, very, very strong all season. You get Sean Muir and Fraser Rennick and Spittle there. I mean, it's huge if you've got those guys together as a unit, and you bring Aaron McComb and Sean Fairbairn into the mix of the front five. They're pretty dominant up front, and the back row of Jay Linton, Bruce McNeil and Liam Scott, and a really, really solid pack there. And they exerted a lot of pressure on that Edinburgh side for long periods, and I think that's where the game was won, was up front.
Well, joining me at the back of the stand now is Rhys Davies, the captain of the Edinburgh side. It was a good, wide-open game. Your coach, Bob McKillop, said it was not going to be 6-3 this afternoon, and it certainly wasn't. 67 points.
We've had a couple of sessions together, and we pride ourselves on having a good skill set and throw the ball around. So we knew there was going to be tries on both sides of the park. We knew that a lot of the boys in the south are big, heavier forwards, and despite the weather today being absolutely spot on, they just decided to play a more straightforward game, and we knew that was coming, but to be fair to them, it was a forward struggle, and they played to their strengths today. Great start for your boys, of course, and we've always seen this with the South ever since 2009. They always go behind at the front, and I don't know if you knew that or not, but certainly that's what happened today. 3 minutes. Absolutely. I mean, the plan was to come out firing. I think we showed really good points in the game. The first 10 minutes was excellent. We were moving the ball around. We're sticking to the game plan. But what we found, I found being on the pitch, was that our discipline led to them just taking the set pieces, making the right decisions and played to their strengths. So I think we've probably got a lot to prove still in our next game. We didn't fire all our shots today, but I think you'll see a better team next week or the week after. And you mentioned the discipline. The penalty count, I think, was probably I think it was 15 against us. 15 against you, which is too high. Yeah, far too high. You try and keep it under 10 in a whole game, typically, and I think that they have a few boys in there who know how to milk a penalty, and I think we weren't good enough today. So, but it's not all negative. I think we've got a lot still to show. We've got some really exciting players for the next game, and we've got a lot to build on as well, a lot of young players. So hopefully we're back here again next year. Half-time, 29-10, you were adrift there, so it was really important that you got the next score, which you did, and it was you scored it. I did, yeah. No, I don't score many, so no, look, that is good. I think that we have quite a good blend of players, and that's the sort of rugby that we were planning to play today. As I said, move the ball, but if we had another crack at it, it could be different, but we've only had 2 sessions together, and I think we've got a lot to build on. And of course you will be playing at Braidholme in a couple of weeks' time as well, against either Glasgow or Cali Reds, and it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, this whole district thing, Edinburgh haven't played district rugby for 20 odd years. Yeah, look, we're really excited. It's a massive privilege to wear the badge, and I'm sure a few of the boys, you can see everybody's happy, a lot of smiles. It's a really exciting experience, and I think it gives a lot for the Premiership. It really shows the talent that's in the Premiership. There's a lot of boys who could have played up to Super 6 to the higher standard, as it were, but we're sticking the jersey on, and we're really, really enjoying ourselves. So despite the loss, but it is good to hear you saying that the boys love the experience. They want to play district rugby as well, and I think certainly in the south, who've been trying to get the district back for a long time. I think Cali Reds as well. They've both played each other a couple of times, but there is something special about the districts. 100%, and and we saw this game as a massive challenge. Coming down here and playing the on-form. There's a lot of really good players in that team, and a lot who hopefully will kick on again, and we can play against them next year. And the likes of Sean Muir and captaining the side. There's always going to be a good contest down here, and we know that, and there's a lot of pride down here. So the score didn't reflect that today, but the boys will kick on, and I'm really excited for the whole process. Luckily there's always another game, so we'll go again. Well, we wish you luck against whoever it is you play on the 21st of May, but certainly you contributed today, so thank you very much indeed. Rhys Davies, who is the captain of the Edinburgh team. We're going to get Matty Carrier up in a second, so he's just lurking with intent at the moment with his gala shorts on, and we look forward to talking to him in a second. Of course, he announced today, although we actually got it on Saturday, that he was going to be leaving Hoyk at the end of the season. We'll be having a chat with him about that very, very shortly. He's making his way now rather gingerly up to the stand. In fact, he's turned his back on us now, and here he comes. He's coming up now. Matty Carrier, if you just come over this way, marvellous. There we are. It's a long old trek up to the back of the Netherdale stand, but a stand that he knows quite well. And Matty, first of all, many congratulations. Another South win.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's been it's been good to get them back. I enjoyed the first 2 caps, so to get the thing back in, get the inter-district back on, it's been good fun to.
How much did the boys enjoy it? Because it looked as if you were, certainly, I mean, half-time you scored 4 tries, 29-10 was the scoreline. It was all looking very good, all very composed. Obviously, you'd had 4 sessions together, which definitely helped. Yeah, definitely. I think the boys loved it. I was speaking to a couple of Hoyt boys there, and we were down training last night, and boys weren't really looking forward to it much last night because there was a few fuzzy heads, but when they got back out there, and it just ups that level a wee bit. Like, everyone's a lot quicker, and obviously the skill level's a lot higher, so it's just a lot more fun to be playing around. And it was almost inevitable that you were going to go behind, because that's what happens to the South. They always go behind since 2009, and then they come back to win. But it was a bit of a surprise seeing so much, obviously, the space at the back, and off went Ali McKillop to go in under the post. What was said then at that moment? Was it a case of, don't panic, let's just get things sorted out? Yeah, I think so. We've obviously had the 4 sessions, so we've got quite a good game plan and position, so we knew, like, our structure, if we stuck to it, we'd eventually break them down. So it was just that, like that, not to panic. Get our foot in the game. We hadn't really fired a shot before that, so get our foot in the game and sort of see how it goes from there. Good to get 4 tries, of course, in the first half, which gave you a little cushion, 29 points to 10, and although they came back in the second half to make it interesting, but then you pulled away again with a couple of tries, so including Sean Muir and Fraser Rennick and Jay Linton, and a lot of Hoyt names on there getting on the scoreboard tonight. Yeah, definitely. Like I say, you stick to that structure. Edinburgh are always going to come back in at the start of that second half, so it's just like you weather that storm and stick to your structure, play your game, and we'll get the points. Just been talking to Rhys Davies, the captain of Edinburgh, who thoroughly enjoyed the experience. I think all the players did, on both sides today, but one thing he did pinpoint was the lack of discipline, and that was where the South really came on board. You won a lot of penalties. Yeah, I think we're quite good at that the day. He did mention there are a few in the team who actually are very good at getting penalties. Well, when you play the likes of Bruce McNeil, he's... you mentioned him. There was a wee moment on the far side there that I think he managed to kick the ball at the scrum half's hands. Shocking, just as he got away, we got really a scrum. There are wee wins for Bruce, like, he takes big energy from that. Well, I mean, let's have a word about Bruce then, because, I mean, 38 years old. He was running about 39 now. He's heading for 40. Yeah. Heading for 40. He's still looking great out there, I have to say. I know Neil Hinnigan will disagree, and but I mean, he really put in a shift. He did all 80 minutes again today. Yes, you know what you get with Bruce. He's obviously that right physical bit about him, and he's plenty of noise. He organises well as all the smack talk that comes with him. That's right. Well, let's talk about you now then, because it was announced yesterday officially, although Dale Clancy mentioned it on Saturday, that exclusively on Borders Rugby Radio, that you were going to be going back to Peebles, which is your original club, of course, having had a fantastic season at Hawick. Yeah, this is it. When I left Peebles, a good few years, about 8 years ago now, I always said I'd be back and finish off my career here, so I've still got 2 or 3 years in me yet, but I thought I'll go back now before I can still offer something on the pitch. So. Fantastic. It's obviously the red and white that's attracting you there. The hoops don't do much for me, man. After a big pre-season, but this will be good to head back. Absolutely. So, I mean, wearing the red and white tonight of the South, I think you've obviously spoken to a couple of the players on the pitch after that, and I think they're all beaming. They loved the experience. Yeah, this is it. I think everyone's enjoyed it. We've enjoyed the training sessions, the 4 sessions that we've had, just getting everyone back in. The boys that you usually don't get to play with and playing against, knocking lumps at each other week in, week out, so it's good to get them back down and work together. And 1 match to go? Yeah, 1 match to go. Because presumably you're not doing the sevens? No, I think those days are past. So do you fancy Cali or do you fancy Glasgow to play? Who do you think? I don't really think it matters. I think with that squad out there, we'll take whoever comes in the final day. Yeah, and it's at Braid Home, of course, which is a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Obviously, GHA very much instrumental in trying to get the inter-district back, along with Hawick and other clubs as well. But that will certainly be something which I think we'll get quite a few people from the borders going over to Glasgow for that one. That's a 3 o'clock kick-off on the 21st of May at Braid Home, and you will be there.
Yep, fingers crossed anyway.
Marvellous. Well done today on a fantastic performance from you personally, and of course South as well. That's Matty Carrier, who's off to Peebles, but before that he's got a date at Braidholme with the South, who will be taking on either Glasgow or Caledonia. What about that experience then, Neil Hinnigan? You've been to Braidholme with the South before, the Sevens side.
Yeah, been up there with them before, and it's a good club. It's a good setup. They've now got the 3G pitch aligned with the main pitch, and obviously, like Rangi Jurusovic is up there. He had a big say, and I think he produced the paper or at the start regarding the inter-district championship. So, they've obviously got a vast investment in what this is about. So it's a fitting place for the finals to be, I would say. But it's a good enough place to play the rugby, and I don't think it matters what pitch this South team are going to play on. They're going to go there backing themselves and hungry to get this championship.
And it was 56 minutes when they started doing the wholesale changes. The Hoyk front row came off, which is probably understandable after what happened on Saturday in the cup final at BT Murrayfield. But then, of course, the rest of the team came. And that was important, I think, wasn't it, Graeme, to get at least 20 minutes under their belts ahead of the next game, because there will be changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was nice to have that luxury, for Matty and his team to be able to bring these guys on, give them that exposure, give them that little bit of game time to hopefully benefit them in 10 or 11 days' time up at Braidholme. And, it's in a tighter game, if it had been a nail biter, might not be able to make those changes quite so early. So a good position for the coaching staff to be in, because obviously whoever they're up against a week on Sunday is going to be a tough gig to try and win the inter-district championship. But they'll certainly hopefully keep everybody fit. Obviously these guys will be playing sevens. This Saturday at Jed. A lot of these guys, obviously the bigger front row boys and second row boys, will not, but the predominantly backline and. It'd be interesting to see what Hoyk actually do. Will they go for these last two tournaments? I'd like to see them do that. I'd like to see Jay Linton cutting it up at Riverside on Saturday, for example, and get Ronan McKean and these guys back in. But time will tell on that one. I think they've obviously been saving themselves for the 15s, and they're certainly the right to do that, and saving these bodies. And they've had that invincible season now, and they want to kick on. And for me as a player at that. Especially these lot of young guys, let's go and, from a Hoyk point of view, let's go and win the last two tournaments.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what will happen. Ek and I were talking about it off air before. It's a week on Saturday is obviously the last sevens tournament. A lot of these guys, especially the Melrose guys and the Gala guys, just now are really going for the Kings of Sevens titles. So what happens if they're selected for the South on the Sunday? Do they play for their club at Selkirk a week on Saturday, or do they rest up for the Sunday? It's a difficult one.
Well, I think you've got an opinion on that, Robin.
I think certainly now that we know that the South are in the final, but it's hard to say. If it was me personally, I'd be wanting to play in that game, and I wouldn't want to be doing too much. The day before to jeopardise what might be a great occasion and a historic occasion for this. For this great district side that is back in a proper championship, and the proper championship's here to stay. And the South will be looking to get their first kind of hands on the cup in its new sort of format. It's new in the new age, and I think a lot of the boys will be wanting to play in that, I would imagine.
Of course, the South are the holders at the moment. It goes back to 2002, I think, was the last district tournament, and it was played 4-1-4. So, in fact, you add the 5 that we've had so far, they're unbeaten their last 9.
Yeah, and I've not seen anything tonight to suggest that will change come the 21st.
Well, you mentioned Jed Forest Sevens, and that's, of course, where we are next Saturday. These matches are coming thick and fast, there's no doubt about that. We had BT Murrayfield on Saturday, Netherdale on Tuesday, it's Riverside Park on the Saturday. And if you haven't heard already, the draw for the Jed Sevens, it's a knockout competition. Edinburgh against Peebles, Malta against Hoyk, Watsonians against Melrose, Boroughmuir against Langham, Curry versus Jed Forest, Berwick against Selkirk, Musselburgh Edinburgh against Kelso, and Highland against Gala. That is the draw for the Jed Forest Sevens. It all starts at 2 o'clock, and we'll be on air at 2 o'clock for that one as well. You won't miss a single tie all the way through. And of course, so far it's been very, very interesting because we've had 8 tournaments, we've had 8 different winners. Could we get a 9th separate winner? And of course, we don't know what Malta are going to be like, and Jed Forest will certainly be wanting to pick up their own trophy. And then of course it's on to Selkirk for the final, and Selkirk haven't won yet this year, so who knows, maybe we'll get 10 different tournaments with 10 winners. That's all coming up live on Borders Rugby Radio over the coming weeks, and of course we will also be at Braidholme for the match between the South against either Caledonia Reds or Glasgow. But tonight it's been all about the South of Scotland, the return after 6 years, a wonderful winning performance by 50 points to 17, scoring 7 tries to 2. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage, and we'll see you on Saturday. From the team and me, bye for now.